You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2536, Chapter 2536, Chapter 545, Invasion of the Undead. 2. Chapter 2536, Chapter 545, Invasion of the Undead. 2. Compared to the mountains and seas of the 10,000 races, the humans didn't have any advantage, nor were they too heaven-defying. Qin Fang gripped his long spear tightly. He said coldly, "Heltai, don't go too far. I've already said that we humans only occupy 1/10 of such a large area and collect some heavenly river sand. What more do you want? Do you really want to fight a bloody battle? Do you want to be the one to stand out?" He was not afraid of him, but the other party had twice the number of people on his side, and there were more than 20 people in the mountains and seas. On his side, there were less than 10 people, so it would be very difficult to win a battle. The demon known as Heltai said coldly, "If you don't want to die, then get lost." Bulsh *T. Qin Fa was furious. "If you dare to make a move, the human race will only target you, the demon race. Try to be the bird that stands out." It was precisely because of this misgivings that Heltai did not make a move. At this moment, he frowned slightly and looked at the other races. Some of the top geniuses from the other races did not come. Madonna, Zhan Wushuang, Mingyu, Xian Wuji. None of the guys on the list were famous. Some were searching for treasures on the second floor, and some had already gone to the higher floors. They did not take the third floor seriously at all. The heavenly river sand was only a treasure, not a supreme treasure. This wasn't in their consideration. On the other hand, the human race always fought for the heavenly river sand. Heltai ignored Qin Fang and transmitted his voice to the experts of the other races. Among them, the strongest one was an expert from the dragon race. "Long Ji, you are the strongest. PLL leave Qin Fang to you. PLL deal with Wu Qi and the others, how about it?" Heltai transmitted his voice to Qin Fang. On the dragon race's side, more than 10 dragons returned to their original forms and hovered in the air. When they heard the voice transmission and were about to say something, a burst of laughter suddenly sounded from afar. "Yo, they're all here." In the next moment, someone recognized the other party and stepped into the air. Huang Ting chuckled. He was dressed in short combat clothes. In front of Su Yu, Huang Ting was nothing. However, in the eyes of the 10,000 tribes, this fellow was a vicious person who should not be trifled with. He was at the 6th level of Lingyun realm and could kill an existence at the 5th or 6th level of the mountain and sea realm. Compared to Qin Fang, he was only one level lower. When Huang Ting reached the 7th level, it would be hard to say who would win. In reality, Huang Ting was already close to the 7th level. In fact, he was almost at the 7th level. He was just a little bit away. Huang Ting flew over. When he saw Qin Fang, he chuckled. "Old Qin, why are you so useless? Are you scared by such a small number of people?" Qin Fang snorted. "Nonsense, I'm not afraid." He was worried that if a big battle broke out, the other humans wouldn't be able to face it. There were still quite a number of people in the sky realm present. On the side of the 10,000 races, Ling Yun was the main force. There weren't many people in the sky realm. The key was that there were still some important figures present. Once a huge battle broke out, the humans would definitely be no match for them. In a one-on-one battle, Qin Fang wasn't afraid of these fellows. "Huang Ting. Are you here to court death?" Heltai said coldly. Huang Ting's arrival made the humans a little more excited. Not bad, another expert had finally arrived. Just as they were thinking, 2 more figures appeared. Many people looked over again, and when they saw Xia Huyo, no one said anything. It was normal for Huang Ting and Xia Huyo to be around, but no one knew the woman besides Xia Huyo, and neither did the other 10,000 clans. However, some of the 10,000 clans, mountains and seas were a bit solemn. 7th level of the mountain and sea realm. Since when did the human race have such a young 7th level of the mountain and sea realm expert, a member of the Xia clan? However, they hadn't seen this woman when the Xia clan had sent out their men. Could it be that she had disguised herself? The person at the 7th level of the mountain and sea realm was Huangjiu. As for Xia Huyo, at this moment, he chuckled and said, "Everyone, we're all here to search for treasures, not to fight. There are many treasures in the Starry Manor, so why do we have to fight endlessly for a bit of the Milky Way sand? Why don't we all take a step back and take the lion's share? Let's gather a little." Seeing that someone wanted to refute, Xia Huyo immediately said, "Also, danger has appeared on the 2nd floor. I think everyone should calm down a little and stop fighting." After he finished speaking, more than 10 humans followed behind him. All of them had come up with him from the 2nd floor. In an instant, the human side strength had become much stronger. Hertai and the others frowned. The Dragon Clan's Long JP's voice was loud. With a smile, he said, "Crown Prince Xia, you don't have the final say. Also, is the 2nd laver of danger that you're talking about the tremor? If that's the case, there's no need for Crown Prince Xia to scare us." Seeing more and more humans gathering, Long Ji said, "How about this? The humans will find treasures in another place. We don't want to make things difficult for you. You are not allowed to enter the Heavenly River." This was the most important place in the 3rd level. As soon as these words were said, on the immortal side, suddenly, a female immortal said coldly, "Also, hand over Bai Feng and the others." If I remember correctly, the various manners of the human race did not have much interaction with Bai Feng's lineage. Our main target is Bai Feng. Are we going to anger us because of Bai Feng? The female immortal looked at the celestial, demon, and other races and said calmly, "Everyone, your races also have this order, right? Wipe out Bai Feng's lineage." Of course. On the celestial side, a handsome young man smiled and said, "Bai Feng's bloodline is the common enemy of all races. The rest of the humans can leave, but they can't." In the crowd, Bai Feng's expression was calm. In front of Su Yu, he was smiling and carefree. He had nothing to do. In front of these people, he was as calm as a grandmaster. He said indifferently, "You're right. The rest can leave now. I want to see if you trash dare to kill me. Kill me. I don't think any of you will survive. My disciple can't deal with your ancestor, but dealing with you, I don't think it's a problem." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2537, Chapter 2537, Chapter 545 Invasion of the Undead. 3. Chapter 2537, Chapter 545 Invasion of the Undead. 3. Reveal your disciple. Who's afraid of whom? Xia Huyo and the others had arrived. He felt that Su Yu was about to arrive as well. "This fellow is about to arrive, why should I be afraid of you?" Among the 10,000 clans, there was someone whose expression changed. His eyes were gloomy as he looked at everyone in the human clan. Unless he killed all of them to silence them, once he killed Bai Feng, Su Yu would definitely find out. At this moment, Xia Huyo also sent a voice transmission to Bai Feng. "It's all right. Teacher Bai, don't send yourself to your death. Soon, there will be a way, drag it out a little longer." He didn't say that Su Yu had come. He didn't know whether Bai Feng knew or not. In fact, he didn't need to remind him. However, with what he said, Bai Feng was even more aware. As expected, his disciple, the bane of mankind, was about to arrive. He was really here. With so many people gathered, Su Yu could actually feel it. From afar, he could actually see that there seemed to be a hole in the sky. There was a waterfall falling from the sky, and that was the heavenly river. The so-called Heavenly River was actually a huge waterfall. It was very, very big. The impact was also very strong. Suyu felt it from afar and knew that if an ordinary person entered the bottom of the waterfall, they would quickly be washed into dust. Heavenly River. Waterfall. Suyu looked up at the sky and looked at the sky. Is it a blood vessel rupture or something else? Where is the smiley face lotus? Could it be under the waterfall? There was a river under the waterfall, but behind the waterfall, could the smiley face lotus be there? On the third floor, if there was a suitable place to grow the smiley face lotus, this place was suitable. He watched for a while, but didn't show up, didn't make a move. He's waiting. Calmly waiting, even if the river map is coming, he is also waiting. Wait for some people to leave. 10,000 said let others leave, only kill white maple this line, so you also want to see, which people will go. No feelings. There was no need to talk about feelings. However, Bai Feng and the others were all humans. At this moment, all of them were humans. 10,000 races were going to surround and kill a group of humans. Suyu wanted to see and stand on the racial standpoint, will someone choose to give up the white maple day? This is the position of the race, if more people go, on behalf of the entire human race, have abandoned this line, then Suyu no longer need to rescue some people, completely unnecessary. He too was coming, but the news had not come yet. The guys on the second floor who were preparing to come up were all caught by Suyu. The rest might not have the chance to escape. He too and the others were so strong. How could ordinary people have the chance to run to the entrance? At this moment, no one knew that Suyu had come. Qin Fang raised his long spear and said coldly, there's no need to sow discord. Bai Feng's bloodline is also a human bloodline. The immortals have provoked and provoked us again and again. Do they really think that we can be bullied? Beside Qin Fang, some of the experts also snorted coldly. Childish. Do you think that you can win for sure? If you want to kill, you can come and try. The female immortal said coldly, you are just you. Why do you have to represent the others? Not everyone wants to die. Do you really think we can't kill you? It's just that we're not willing. Are you sure you want to protect Bai Feng's bloodline? At this moment, the auras of the experts of the 10,000 races erupted. Even if they couldn't kill these fellows, they would still create some differences for the human race. This had always been the strategy of the 10,000 races. They believed that someone would stand up and choose to leave. Because this had always been the case. Moreover, Bai Feng's lineage was indeed the target of the 10,000 races. A fierce beast faintly smiled and said, Bai Feng, don't count on Suyu anymore. Does Suyu still want to leave the ancient city now? Once he comes out, the imperial capital will personally kill him. Counting on Suyu, who are you trying to scare? Bai Feng glanced at the other party and sneered, trash, I don't see you dare to call Suyu's name in the vicinity of the ancient city. You can only act arrogantly here. Eloquence. The divine race youth coldly looked around. The human race really wants to start a war with us because of them? Killing Bai Feng is our last concession. Do you really think that a few of you can stop us? The experts of the 10,000 races began to approach. However, the humans were somewhat shaken. Of course, some people didn't pay attention to them at all. At this moment, as the 10,000 races approached, even Qin Fang and the others were a little nervous. Behind them, near Bai Feng, there were people squatting and studying something. Wu Qi was anxious. He sent a voice transmission. Get up quickly. When the battle starts, run with me. Wu Lan ignored her sister and collected a lot of water samples. She also picked up a few grains of heavenly river sand. There were also a lot of instruments beside her that were being tested. Wu Jia was helping her by the side. Wu Lan did not even turn her head. She said telepathically, it's okay, sister. Don't bother me, okay? How annoying. Even Fatty Xia had come. Was Suyu also coming soon? That big bad man, the big devil. Once he came, all these people would be finished. Perhaps he would come now, but he did not come out. That guy's heart was very dark. He might kill whoever escaped, perhaps he was just waiting for the humans to run away. Wu Lan ignored Wu Qi. Instead, she looked at the data displayed on the instrument. Her expression was a little strange as she looked at Wu Jia. She transmitted her voice to Wu Jia, Sister Jia, record this. The Milky Way water is alkaline and has a faint yellow color, some of the substances in it. She hesitated for a moment, however, she still transmitted her voice to Wu Jia, continue recording. It's just my personal judgment that it has some characteristics similar to human bile. If the Milky Way sand is compared, it might be the bile salt in the bile, it has some functions of digestion and absorption. Wu Jia hesitated and said telepathically, are you sure? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2538, Chapter 2538, Chapter 545, Invasion of the Undead. 4. Chapter 2538, Chapter 545, Invasion of the Undead. 4. I'm not sure. I just feel that it has some similar functions. You should record it first. As Wu Lan spoke, she transmitted her voice to Wu Lan. If you extrapolate further, there might be some liver-like tissue above the Milky Way. The bile is secreted, but there's a reverse flow. Wu Lan frowned, forget it, you should record it first. Record all the data. If you encounter Suyu, even if something happens, I hope that this record can reach his hands. Record it again. There might be a treasure at the end of the river that has many functions. It can detoxify, absorb, and purify. Alright At this moment, Xia Huyo also sent a voice transmission to Bai Feng. It's alright. Teacher Bai, don't send yourself to your death. Soon, there will be a way, drag it out a little longer. He didn't say that Suyu had come. He didn't know whether Bai Feng knew or not. In fact, he didn't need to remind him. However, with what he said, Bai Feng was even more aware. As expected, his disciple, the bane of mankind, was about to arrive. He was really here. With so many people gathered, Suyu could actually feel it. From afar, he could actually see that there seemed to be a hole in the sky. There was a waterfall falling from the sky, and that was the Heavenly River. The so-called Heavenly River was actually a huge waterfall. It was very, very big. The impact was also very strong. Suyu felt it from afar and knew that if an ordinary person entered the bottom of the waterfall, they would quickly be washed into dust. Heavenly River. Waterfall. Suyu looked up at the sky and looked at the sky. Is it a blood vessel rupture or something else? Where is the smiley face lotus? Could it be under the waterfall? There was a river under the waterfall, but behind the waterfall, could the smiley face lotus be there? On the third floor, if there was a suitable place to grow the smiley face lotus, this place was suitable. He watched for a while, but didn't show up, didn't make a move. He's waiting. Calmly waiting, even if the river map is coming, he is also waiting. Wait for some people to leave. 10,000 said let others leave, only kill white maple this line, so you also want to see, which people will go. No feelings. There was no need to talk about feelings. However, Bai Feng and the others were all humans. At this moment, all of them were humans. 10,000 races were going to surround and kill a group of humans. Suyu wanted to see and stand on the racial standpoint, will someone choose to give up the white maple day? This is the position of the race, if more people go, on behalf of the entire human race, have abandoned this line, then Suyu no longer need to rescue some people, completely unnecessary. He too was coming, but the news had not come yet. The guys on the second floor who were preparing to come up were all caught by Suyu. The rest might not have the chance to escape. He too and the others were so strong. How could ordinary people have the chance to run to the entrance? At this moment, no one knew that Suyu had come. Qin Fang raised his long spear and said coldly, "There's no need to sow discord. Bai Feng's bloodline is also a human bloodline. The immortals have provoked and provoked us again and again. Do they really think that we can be bullied?" Beside Qin Fang, some of the experts also snorted coldly. "Childish. Do you think that you can win for sure? If you want to kill, you can come and try." The female immortal said coldly, "You are just you. Why do you have to represent the others? Not everyone wants to die. Do you really think we can't kill you? It's just that we're not willing. Are you sure you want to protect Bai Feng's bloodline?" At this moment, the auras of the experts of the 10,000 races erupted. Even if they couldn't kill these fellows, they would still create some differences for the human race. This had always been the strategy of the 10,000 races. They believed that someone would stand up and choose to leave. Because this had always been the case. Moreover, Bai Feng's lineage was indeed the target of the 10,000 races. A fierce beast faintly smiled and said, "Bai Feng, don't count on Suyu anymore. Does Suyu still want to leave the ancient city now? Once he comes out, the imperial capital will personally kill him. Counting on Suyu, who are you trying to scare?" Bai Feng glanced at the other party and sneered, "Trash, I don't see you dare to call Suyu's name in the vicinity of the ancient city. You can only act arrogantly here." Eloquence. The divine race youth coldly looked around. The human race really wants to start a war with us because of them? Killing Bai Feng is our last concession. Do you really think that a few of you can stop us? The experts of the 10,000 races began to approach. However, the humans were somewhat shaken. Of course, some people didn't pay attention to them at all. At this moment, as the 10,000 races approached, even Qin Fang and the others were a little nervous. Behind them, near Bai Feng, there were people squatting and studying something. Wuxia was anxious. He sent a voice transmission. "Get up quickly. When the battle starts, run with me." Wu Lan ignored her sister and collected a lot of water samples. She also picked up a few grains of heavenly river sand. There were also a lot of instruments beside her that were being tested. Wu Jia was helping her by the side. Wu Lan did not even turn her head. She said telepathically, "It's okay, sister. Don't bother me, okay?" How annoying. Even Fatty Xia had come. Was Suyu also coming soon? That big bad man, the big devil. Once he came, all these people would be finished. Perhaps he would come now, but he did not come out. That guy's heart was very dark. He might kill whoever escaped, perhaps he was just waiting for the humans to run away. Wu Lan ignored Wu Qi. Instead, she looked at the data displayed on the instrument. Her expression was a little strange as she looked at Wu Jia. She transmitted her voice to Wu Jia, "Sister Jia, record this. The Milky Way water is alkaline and has a faint yellow color, some of the substances in it." She hesitated for a moment, however, she still transmitted her voice to Wu Jia, "Continue recording. It's just my personal judgment that it has some characteristics similar to human bile. If the Milky Way sand is compared, it might be the bile salt in the bile, it has some functions of digestion and absorption." Wu Jia hesitated and said telepathically, "Are you sure? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories." Chapter 2539, Chapter 2539, Chapter 545 Invasion of the Undead. 5. Chapter 2539, Chapter 545 Invasion of the Undead. 5. Suyu had been watching silently as the 10,000 races forced him to leave. He thought that it was normal to walk half the way, and it was normal to walk 2/3 of the way. The remaining 1/3 was reasonable. But there was no one. Less than 1/3 had left. Not only that. Suyu checked on the 38 people who had left. Around 30 of them had really left. The remaining few had actually turned back at the periphery at this moment, and were lying in ambush. Were they preparing for a great battle to break out before launching a surprise attack? This was also a strategy. In reality, only a quarter of them had left. Suyu looked at the sky and fell into deep thought for a moment. A quarter. Was that too much? Actually, it was quite a lot. However, compared to what he had expected, it was really very little. The Many Divine Languages department was not very well liked. The massacre of the 10,000 heavenly saints had actually offended quite a number of people. Under such circumstances, there were still so many people left behind. It was much better than what he had imagined. Some people were actually very afraid. Suyu could feel that kind of fear. It was also true that fear was only normal in a life-and-death situation. Suyu had also been afraid before. He was also afraid of encountering an undefeatable expert and a life-and-death crisis. However, to be able to stay behind, that was blood. Human race. Suyu muttered. At this moment, even as a human, he also felt a little strange. This race was too strange. The internal strife had made him want to break away from the human race. Internal strife continued, and internal strife continued. At any moment, there would be internal strife. However, when faced with an external enemy, even if one knew that death was inevitable, there would still be people who would step forward without hesitation. Even if there were people who had a bad relationship with Bai Feng, they would still choose to stay. This was especially so when some people left safely without being killed. These people still chose to stay. Even when Bai Feng expressed his gratitude, some of them scoffed at him. However, the other party still chose to stay behind. Complicated. As a human, Suyu could also feel the complicated feelings he felt at this moment. Humans were truly more complicated than the myriad clans. At this moment, it wasn't a matter of cooperation, so there wasn't much benefit in staying behind. There were some fellows. Simply stayed behind due to their passion. It's too complicated. Suyu mocked himself. He was too young. Sometimes, he felt that he had seen through everything, but he didn't see through anything. He thought that only a few people had left. It was really strange. It's time to leave. Suyu was worried that he too would come up. After seeing everything, he didn't have the mood to continue. His eyes had already swept over several times. Among these people, there were a few who had some sun and moon blood essence in their bodies, or perhaps they were heavenly soldiers. These people were the main targets. As for the rest, he didn't have to worry too much. His will to be civilized slowly emerged, and he killed them all. He too was the scapegoat. Just as the 10,000 races were about to make a move, someone seemed to sense something and looked at the sky. At this moment, a small book suddenly appeared in the sky. What is that? Someone's eyes flickered. Treasure. In the Starry Sky Mansion, there was no lack of treasures. Sometimes, there were treasures that fell from the sky. At this moment, many people looked at the book. Sacred. It was filled with a sacred aura. Even at a glance, one would feel that it was a supreme treasure. It seemed to be filled with the charm of the great Tao and the radiance of civilization. Vague shadows appeared on the book, as if it was recording the history of the 10,000 races, the civilization of the 10,000 races. There was no sense of danger. That was because Suyu, who was in the air, was using the word calamity to break out and reverse everyone's sense of danger. They were just a bunch of weaklings. The strongest was at the 9th level of the mountain and sea realm, and there wasn't even a sun or moon. How could they compete with him? A treasure. Hertai and the others looked at each other. This seemed to be a heavenly weapon. And it was extremely sacred. It wasn't simple. Greed appeared in their eyes. A heavenly weapon was a good thing no matter where they went. Long Ji from the dragon race quickly sent a voice transmission. Kill the humans first, then distribute the heavenly weapon. Since the treasure is out, it won, run away. Hertai also nodded and shouted, kill the humans first, then seize the treasures. The great battle seemed to be about to break out. On the human side, the experts were all extremely nervous, while Xia Huyo, Huang Teng, and the others had strange expressions in their eyes. These fellows were courting death. At this moment, many phantoms appeared on the book, and their auras soared. Many phantoms of the sun and moon appeared. In the air, Su Yu's face turned slightly pale. The book mainly used its own power, but it also needed to exhaust the power of its owner, Su Yu. Fellow Taoists. Let's explore civilization together and search for the past and the future. A murmur slowly sounded out, and in the next moment, when the group of people still didn't sense any danger, the 300 giant beasts suddenly attacked. Puchi. The phantoms pierced through those people. How could a group of Lingyun mountains and seas compete with the sun and moon? In an instant, nearly 90% of the 300 experts of the 10,000 races died instantly. They were directly devoured by the phantoms. As for the remaining people, their expressions changed drastically. Their blood essence or heavenly weapons were about to explode. However, the phantoms that had devoured the others all suppressed them. 10 suns and moons were suppressing one Lingyun or the mountains and seas. There was no room for them to resist. The huge beasts all roared happily. In an instant, everyone was devoured. They disappeared. Close to 300,000 races disappeared in an instant. On the human side, everyone was shocked. Some of them were so scared that their faces were pale and their bodies were trembling. What was this? Their minds were pale, and there was only fear. It was too terrifying. At this moment, Su Yu reversed his origin aperture and turned it into an aura of death. He floated down and said coldly, the sovereign has descended and pitted the human race. The human race will retreat, and our race will rule the world. Dead souls. They were terrified and couldn't believe it. Dead souls. A dead soul had appeared on the lower 3 levels. The monarch had descended. At this moment, a voice rang out in Xia Huyo's mind, and his expression immediately changed. He hurriedly shouted, "Thank you, my lord. Everyone, retreat, quickly. I just told them that the crisis on the 2nd level has descended, and the monarch of the river map has descended. He will immediately go up to the 3rd level. Thank you, my lord, for your help." Su Yu was cold and indifferent, and he enunciated each word clearly. As a human, I can only do my best. Once the monarch has arrived, I don't dare to defy the monarch's orders. Leave. At this moment, scenes of great drama involuntarily appeared in everyone's minds. This person was a subordinate of monarch He too. When he was alive, he was a human. He had recovered some of his memories, so he chose to help the human race solve the crisis. However, a necromancer monarch was about to descend, and when that one came, he might not let the human race off. At this moment, everyone's expression changed. Run! The necromancer sovereign actually ran from below. As for Su Yu, in their eyes, he was incomparably powerful. He had killed millions of races with a single strike, and was probably someone close to the sovereign level. Qin Fang's expression changed as he shouted, "Retreat, quickly retreat. Quickly go to the 4th level." Qin Fang was greatly shocked and incomparably shocked. How could a sovereign descend? Damn it, this shouldn't be. Also, that picture book was filled with divine power. It was actually a dead spirit's. It was unimaginable. As for Su Yu, his cold voice continued to spread, "Leave quickly. Our race will rule the world sooner or later. At that time, the human race will be our enemy. I am already a dead spirit and no longer a human. I will only do this once and never do it again." At this moment, even Qin Fang couldn't help but be moved. He was somewhat grateful and hurriedly said, "Thank you, sir. Such a good person." Even after he died, he still remembered that he was a human. In the next moment, he led the others to evacuate. However, when he saw Bai Feng and the others, he couldn't help but say, "Why are you still not leaving?" Bai Feng wanted to say something but stopped himself. "Leave my ass. Su Yu, this brat, is lying to you." Of course, he couldn't say these words. At this moment, Su Yu's voice rang in his ears. "Hurry up and leave. There really is a death spirit sovereign here. I'm not lying to you." Bai Feng was shocked when he heard this. He looked at Su Yu. "You're not lying to me?" Su Yu nearly rolled his eyes. He knew what his teacher meant. "Am I only good at lying?" "It's true. Hurry up and leave. Let's go to the higher levels." It's not just he too. The two necromancer sovereigns came together. "I have to run as well." Bai Feng immediately grabbed Wuxia and Wulan and ran. He did not give the two of them a chance to speak, nor did he give them any time to stay. At this moment, Wulan was struggling. She sent a voice transmission to Su Yu, who was filled with the aura of death, "Go to heaven. Record it next to the equipment. There's a good thing here." Wulan sent a voice transmission. She had already been taken away. Su Yu also saw some of the equipment and records that she had left behind. It seemed like they were specially left for him. In the blink of an eye, everyone disappeared. However, the news of the invasion of the undead spread in an instant. Terrifying. The undead sovereign had arrived. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2540, Chapter 2540, Chapter 546 Heaven Hunting List L. Chapter 2540, Chapter 546 Heaven Hunting List L. Outside Xingyu Mansion. Almost 300 tunnels collapsed in an instant. Shocking. Su Yu didn't know that just before he killed these people, over 100 tunnels collapsed. In an instant, the number of deaths exceeded 400. The sky darkened. Gasps could be heard. Dead, over 1,000. Gasps and pressure. 3 days. In just 3 days, more than 1,000 people had died. They couldn't accept it, nor could they believe it. The unrivaled experts couldn't hold it in any longer and appeared one after another. The void trembled, and space and time were distorted. The unrivaled anger was suppressed, and it was like a furnace that burned the world. Outside, some of the experts from the small clans who had come to send them off or prepare to receive them also had expressions of grief and fear. They were dead. Many of them had died. They were dying one after another, one after another. The deaths made their hearts turn cold. Among the large clans, the immortals had the highest number of deaths. More than 600 people had died. More than 200 had died, close to 1/3 of them. In 3 days, the immortals had wiped out 1/3 of their experts. The gods and demons were still slightly better off. Only about 100 people had died. Compared to the immortals, they could be considered to be very lucky. The atmosphere was extremely oppressive. Once again, someone looked at the humans. That was impossible. Why was it that the humans had the fewest deaths? Especially this time, 300 to 400 people had died. Less than 5 humans had died. There were also 400 to 500 humans who had entered. Why were there so few deaths this time? Did this matter have anything to do with the humans? Invincible said in a depressed tone, so many people have died. Can anyone tell me why? In countless years, there has never been a time when so many people died just like this, right? It had only been 3 days. This was too unusual. Even though Invincible had sent a message and received information that the first level of the mountain and sea realm had changed, the people on the first level had all run away. Could it be that the crisis had spread? Were the experts on the second and third level dead now? Very few people had died in the sun and moon realm, which was the normal number of deaths. However, a large number of people had died in the mountains and seas in the blink of an eye. This was definitely a massacre by top-tier experts. In the blink of an eye, everyone was killed. Among them were many Invincible descendants. Some had weapons, while others had blood essence. However, they died no slower than the others, which meant that there was no time to fight back. There was an Invincible exhale, and the air was filled with killing intent. The air was cut open, and the flames of anger burned. However, no one knew who to vent their anger on. At this moment, someone said coldly, I think we should ask the human race. Please teach me how to do it. All the races are dying, but only the human race has suffered few losses. Since the human race had died, about 60 people had died, 1/7 to 1/8 of them. Just the celestial race alone had lost more than 200 people. There were also many Invincible descendants among them. At this moment, dozens of gazes turned to the human race. On the human side, the great Xia King had a calm expression, while the great Zhou King had a heavy expression. Seeing everyone looking at him, the great Zhou King sighed. Don't ask me. If the human race had this ability, they would have massacred you so many times. We are all enemies, not friends. There is no need to deny it. As for what exactly happened, you can send another message to ask. The group cursed in their hearts. Send a message. One drop of blood essence from an Invincible expert couldn't stay for long. No matter how many Invincible experts there were, they couldn't endure this kind of consumption. At this moment, an Invincible expert of the God clan exhaled and said, then, let's take turns to ask each clan what exactly happened. As soon as he said that, an Invincible expert said coldly, let's forget about our clan. 3 of us went in, and 2 of us died. The other one is the sun and the moon. It's probably not down there. It's useless to ask. Our clan won't participate. What a joke. Why would I waste my blood essence to take turns with you guys when it has nothing to do with me? That godly monarch was not angry either. He said indifferently, if that's the case, if there's really any information, don't even think about it. It was up to him to say it or not. Some small races did not want to care at all. Many people had died, and there were only a few people left who went in. It did not matter if they really could not get anything out of him. The various large clans, especially the immortal, deity, human, demon, and dragon clans, had taken up 2,700 to 800 slots. Only around 500 of these 5 great clans had died, and there were still a little over 2,000 people left. And in the Starry Manor, there were only a total of less than 2,500 people who were still alive. All that was left were the members of these large clans, or some members of the ancient clans. There were very few small clans, and some had simply died. Even the sun and moon had died, so who would be willing to care about this matter? The unrivaled experts all sank into silence. After a long while, the white-haired godly king from the celestial race sighed and said, forget it. It won't be of much use even if we ask now. Let's wait and see. Even if we ask, we won't be able to enter. Someone hesitated and said, can the Heaven Hunting Pavilion think of a way to send a message into the Starry Palace? That's right. Does the Heaven Hunting Pavilion have a way? Can the Heaven Hunting List send a message? Invincible was still very anxious. He wanted to know if there was any way to notify the Heaven Hunting Pavilion. The most promising one was the Heaven Hunting Pavilion, an ancient organization. After an unknown period of time, an indifferent voice sounded from the Heaven Hunting Pavilion. In the past, it wasn't impossible to send messages to the Starry Sky Mansion. Otherwise, how could the experts who lived there communicate with the outside world? It's just that the manor has been shut down, and the restrictions have been activated. Nowadays, it's very difficult for ordinary means to communicate with the outside world. Heaven Hunting Pavilion, the heaven hunting role is damaged and incomplete. It's extremely difficult to communicate with the outside world. Before anyone could reply, the projection of an ancient expert appeared in the air. However, the identity of the ancient expert was unknown, and many people were shocked. You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2541, Chapter 2541, Chapter 546 Heaven Hunting List 2. Chapter 2541, Chapter 546 Heaven Hunting List 2. The expert looked in the direction of the Heaven Hunting Pavilion and coughed, "Marquis. What do you need to restore the Heaven Hunting List?" "Marquis." Some people didn't understand, but some people had strange looks in their eyes. On the human side, many people looked at the Great Xia King. The Great Xia King said calmly, "What are you looking at?" "It's not my son." In ancient times, the human king was a position, a strength. We are conferred the title of king. That fatty of mine has read some ancient book somewhere. The self-titled marquis is not a real one. Even we are the same. The Great Xia King. Now, the invincible human race was conferred the title of king. In reality, the human king was not something that an ordinary person could shoulder. Marquis Xia calling himself marquis actually had some connection with this. However, the words of the Great Xia King caused the expressions of some people from the various clans to become strange. If he did not say it, everyone would have forgotten about it. When he mentioned, the name Marquis seemed to be used only by Marquis Xia, and he was quite famous. When he mentioned Marquis, the first person he thought of was Marquis Xia. Originally, that ancient expert did not pay much attention to it. However, very quickly, he also felt a little strange. Meanwhile, in the Heaven Hunting Pavilion, that scholar was also slightly startled and could not help but laugh. He slowly said, "The title of Marquis has become a joke. The ancient times have passed, so there's no need to call me that. Just call me Pavilion Master." The title of Marquis was something that people couldn't bear to look at. When it came to Marquis, everyone's first thought was the son of the Emperor of Great Xia. The scholar was also an important figure in the ancient times, so they didn't want people to talk about this anymore. In today's myriad realms, if one were to talk about the living, the ancient era's experts, he could be considered the one with the highest status. He was a marquis. Above him were the human king and the 10,000 half-emperors. However, these were all conferred titles. Most of the half-emperors of the current era had not been conferred titles. They had all died later on. The self-conferred half-emperors, including Old Turtle, could only be counted as true half-emperors after being conferred titles by the ancient human emperor. As for the others, even if they had reached the level of strength, they were still not half-emperors. If they dared to call themselves emperors, they would be traitors. Right now, the human race was invincible and dared to call themselves kings. The scholar could not be bothered to say anything. In the ancient times, the only person in the human realm who had a chance of becoming a king was probably the great Qin king. Perhaps he was even slightly weaker. He did not say anything. He looked at the ancient expert projected by the projection. He knew exactly who it was. It was just that he had not seen him for many years. He did not think that he was still alive. The scholar said softly, "It is almost impossible to restore the Heaven Hunting List." However, the Heaven Hunting List was broken in the past, and some things were lost. If you take it out now and merge it with the Heaven Hunting List, perhaps you can restore some things and communicate with the internal department. Lost something? Some people were puzzled, and some were surprised. Such a powerful list had actually been broken before, and it was not complete. The scholar's voice echoed once again, "That's right. The current heaven hunting board no longer has the ability of the past. It is unable to take the initiative to incorporate the aura of the myriad worlds. The 4 heaven hunting tribes are still needed to search for it. The ranking board is no longer as fair as before. In the past, the heaven hunting board had taken the initiative to cover the myriad worlds in the heavens. It was the myriad worlds in the heavens, and not a mere battlefield in the heavens. If one was an expert or a genius, they all had to be on the ranking board. The scholar said again, "The heaven hunting list is not complete, but I know that there should be a fragment in the heaven hunting tower. If it is combined, there is hope to connect to the starry palace." Heaven Hunting Tower. The organization that produced the Tao verification list. When these words were said, many people had strange looks in their eyes. They were somewhat surprised. It was said that there was support behind the Heaven Hunting Tower. The supporters were one of the major races, gods, devils, immortals, and even all of them. No one knew the specifics, but they knew one thing. They dared to produce the Tao verification list, so they had the confidence. They kept a low profile, but they were not afraid of trouble. Very few people knew where their headquarters was. They were even more mysterious than the Heaven Hunting Pavilion, but their strength seemed to be inferior to the Heaven Hunting Pavilion. As soon as these words came out, Invincible said, "If the Heavenly Treasures building has it, why don't we come out and negotiate with the Heaven Hunting Pavilion? Right now, we don't know anything about the internal intelligence. If we know what happened, we have some ways to deal with it. There are people entering the myriad treasures building this time. I wonder if the pavilion master is here." One after another, Invincible said. A moment later, the void trembled. In the void, a plump middle-aged man smiled and said, "He's here, he's here." Many people became even stranger. He really came. Who was this stranger? The pavilion master of the myriad treasures building? Which race was he from? In the Heaven Hunting Pavilion, the scholar glanced at the fatty and smiled. "So it's you." The myriad treasures pavilion could be considered an old rival. However, it hadn't been established for too long. He had previously thought about who was in charge. Now that he saw this fatty, he was surprised. He smiled and said, "General Duo Bao, it's been a long time." The plump fatty said happily, "It's been a long time. This general greets the Marquis." After saying this, he smiled and said, "Forget it, forget it. Let's just call him Pavilion Master." "Pavilion Master, I heard what you said. I won't hide it from you. Many years ago, I picked up a treasure. After that, I founded the Myriad Treasures Pavilion and the Tao Verification Board. It was also built on this foundation. Now that I've become one Pavilion Master, then you're going to kill me. My Myriad Treasures Pavilion won't be able to continue operating." The scholar sat in the Heaven Hunting Pavilion for a long time before asking, "Which one did you pick up?" "Just one." The plump middle-aged man chuckled, "But, there's a word." The scholar instantly sat up straight. "What word?" "Record." The scholar's expression changed slightly. Then, "The picture word isn't with." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2542, Chapter 2542, Chapter 546, Heaven Hunting List 3. Chapter 2542, Chapter 546, Heaven Hunting List 3. It's really not here. The plump middle-aged man smiled and said, "I don't dare to deceive you, Pavilion Master. It's really just the word record. Otherwise, the Tao proving list wouldn't be so unreliable. From time to time, it would be a little unresponsive. Once it's hidden, I won't be able to monitor it. Then where's the word map? The scholar muttered. Map. Yes, the heaven hunting list was actually just a map. But now, it was a little broken and two more important parts were missing. Or rather, two words, catalog. At the edge of the void, the plump middle-aged man smiled and said, "Pavilion Master, I have the catalog." The catalog. Why don't you ask again, was it picked up by someone? I didn't take it. The scholar calmly said, "Can you return it? You also know that this thing isn't mine. But, PM monitoring it on behalf of the heavens." The plump middle-aged man smiled and said, "Pavilion Master, you must be joking. This matter is already ancient history. But I think that we can find the side that has the catalog. With the three parties working together, we should be able to send a message to the Starry Mansion. As for the Unity, forget it. I also know that this item was previously in the Pavilion Master's possession." The scholar sighed softly. Forget it, forget it. Who has the word map? If we take it out, only some fragments are missing. It's not a big deal. Its functions are almost complete. We should be able to contact the interior of the Starry Sky Mansion. At this moment, the experts looked at each other. Those who didn't know had strange expressions on their faces. The heaven hunting list was a record. And it had been broken before. Even so, the heaven hunting list now had the power of a divine weapon and covered the entire heavenly battlefield. How powerful was it during that period of time? The pavilion master of the heaven hunting pavilion was an ancient expert. Everyone had already guessed this. The only thing they didn't expect was that the Myriad Treasures building, which everyone thought was a subordinate organization controlled by gods and devils, was actually an ancient expert. General Duo Bao. Some people knew the situation. In the ancient times, below the marquis was a title general. There were generals with titles, such as Spirit Suppression General, General Duo Bao, and then there was an untitled general. On the human side, the great Xia King was also surprised. He glanced at General Duo Bao and transmitted his voice. What kind of strength does he have? Can you tell? The great Zhou King looked at him for a while, then shook his head and transmitted his voice. I'm not sure, but PM afraid he's not weak. You and I might not be a match for him. The old fellows are coming out more and more frequently. It's not a good thing for them to appear one after another these few days. For hundreds of years, these fellows had been in a deep sleep, resting and recuperating. But now, all of them had come out. Heaven Overseeing Marquis, General Duo Bao, Heavenly Ancient, Life Emperor. As he was thinking, someone suddenly shouted from afar, Duo Bao, the Myriad Treasures building of the heavens, was it built by you? The plump middle-aged man turned his head to take a look and saw an illusory figure on top of an ancient city. He smiled and said, Greetings Brother Tian. Mie. Sorry for the joke. Tian Mie was also idle. Although he could not come out, he could still say a few words. In the past, he did not speak because there were too few people who had the qualifications to make him speak. At this moment, Tian Mie's interest was piqued. He smiled and said, You took away the heaven overseeing marquis plaything, yet you still dare to show yourself. This old fellow's strength is very terrifying. Be careful that he doesn't kill you and take back the treasure. General Duo Bao smiled lightly and said, It's not that serious, Brother Tian Mie, you must be joking. Tian Mie smiled and said, You still don't believe. Just as he said that, someone interrupted him in a bad mood, Idiot. He has nothing to fear. Don't you know that the Myriad Treasures building is backed by the various great clans? This fellow should have some sort of agreement with those old fogies, Tian Gu. Do you think he will be afraid? He is used by these few clans to restrict the heaven hunting pavilion. Heaven Extinguisher was stunned for a moment. He took a glance at Cloud Sky Ancient City and said with a smile, Yun Shao, do you know? Yun Shao no longer said anything. He had already guessed it. After all, he had lived for so many years. Duo Bao chuckled and said, then there's no such thing. Tian Mia glanced at him and suddenly sneered. He said disdainfully, forget it, just pretend that I didn't see you and don't know you. In any case, you're still an elder. You can't afford to get mixed up with the younger generation of Tiangu. You can't afford to lose that person. From the looks of it, you might not have entered the immortal soul 3rd level, trash. After so many years, I still thought that you had entered the immortal soul 3rd level. The plump middle-aged man's face fell as he laughed dryly. However, heaven's destruction no longer paid him any attention. There was no point in not playing with this person. Although he was trapped, he still did not take Tiangu seriously in his heart. He was just a junior, so what was there to be arrogant about? His strength was stronger than his, but that was because the system had been trapped for 100,000 years. Otherwise, who would not be able to defeat Tiangu? After being trapped for so many years, his strength had actually improved slightly, but it was not very obvious. And after 100,000 years, if he had not been trapped, he would have long entered the immortal soul 3rd level. Heaven destruction didn't pay attention to him, and General Duo Bao didn't care too much. Now, after all, it wasn't the same as back then. He looked at the heaven hunting pavilion and said again, Pavilion Master, don't you know who has the last main fragment? The scholar was silent. After a long while, he slowly said, if PM not wrong, the thing is on the side of the Heavenly Abyss clan, right? On the side of the Heavenly Abyss clan. Curse Mu to take control of the Heavenly Abyss clan. How about coming out to have a look? Heavenly Abyss clan. General Duo Bao was slightly startled. Very quickly, he understood and said, so that's the case. No wonder this clan's curse technique is getting stronger and stronger. It turns out that they've obtained the word map. Looks like they used this medium to curse and kill many people. The moment these words were said, the void trembled slightly, revealing an endless dark void. An expert whose entire body was pitch black and was wrapped in a black robe, he said softly, as expected, I can't hide it from you two seniors. The item is indeed in my hands. However, the ancient era has passed, and the master of the heaven hunting role has already fallen. This item is destined to be obtained. What do you think, Heavenly Marquis Jian? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2543, Chapter 2543, Chapter 546, Heaven Hunting List 4. Chapter 2543, Chapter 546, Heaven Hunting List 4. The scholar said softly, you can take it if you want. There's no need to say anything. If I'm strong enough, I'll take it back. If PM not strong enough, PLL temporarily stay on your side. How about we work together to open up a communication channel? I just want to see if the heaven hunting list will be united again after countless years, and if it still has some power. The black-robed expert chuckled and said, that's possible, but even if it becomes one, it won't be one anymore. Unless we find a divine armament master to forge it, its power will be greatly reduced, and we might not be able to send a message in. Let's give it a try. The scholar sighed. Sure enough, he didn't lose anything. One from the Myriad Treasures building and one from the ancient Heavenly Abyss tribe. Unfortunately, it wasn't easy to get it back. Duo Bao hadn't reached the Dao fusing stage yet, but he was only one step away. On the other hand, this junior from the ancient Heavenly Abyss clan, the first half-emperor of the Heavenly Abyss clan after the Great Destruction, had entered the Dao fusing stage. This clan had been able to inherit the legacy of the ancient era until now, so they were quite capable. He was able to deal with these two. Most importantly, many people didn't want to become one on the heaven hunting list. Once they attacked, it was likely that someone would get involved. A moment later, a golden page floated in the air. At this moment, Duo Bao and Cursed Mu were silent for a moment before taking out something. 2 fragments. The 2 of them had already refined them. At this moment, 2 large words flew towards the golden page. In an instant, they merged together. However, because they belonged to the 3 of them, they were still a bit lacking. Even so, when these 2 large words landed on the top of the page, golden light instantly shot through the heavens and earth. Rumble. With a loud sound, the huge golden page emitted a powerful fluctuation. Golden patterns appeared one after another. In the blink of an eye, the number of golden patterns had reached 170. At this moment, the golden page finally stopped moving. The intense breathing sounds around it were no longer hidden. Invincible's eyes turned red as they panted. This was a divine weapon. Furthermore, it was an incredibly powerful divine weapon. It hadn't even been completely repaired, yet it had already produced 170 golden patterns. At its peak, it was hard to imagine just how powerful this thing was. No wonder it could cover the heavenly battlefield and the myriad worlds. At this moment, some words could be vaguely seen. There was a Tao corroboration roll on the 4th heaven hunting roll. Above this, one could faintly see the eternal roll. On the 4th heaven hunting roll, the number 1 was Modwa Na. However, at this moment, a person's name faintly appeared, but it was unable to appear. This was because something was concealing it. The scholar frowned slightly and looked towards the ancient city. On the other side of the ancient city, Lu Hong was also startled awake by the huge commotion. When he looked outside, he felt his entire body turn cold when the scholar looked at him through the air. However, he forced himself to remain calm and also saw the faintly discernible heaven roll. He chuckled and said, "Don't tell me you want to reveal my name? Unfortunately, I don't think it's powerful enough. Why can't a half-dead person enter the heaven roll? In my opinion, I still don't have enough ability. It would be easy for me to beat up Modwa." No one refuted his words. The name of Su Yu was likely to appear on the heaven roll. Unfortunately, he had turned into a half-dead spirit and the heaven hunting roll had yet to recover, so he was unable to completely reveal Su Yu's name. However, the scholar was puzzled. There were already 170 golden inscriptions. The gap between him and his peak was not that big. Even a dead spirit should have appeared by now, let alone a non-dead spirit. Strange. Did Su Yu have other treasures that could stop the heaven hunting list from prying? He did not think much about it, because at this moment, another list had also appeared on the heaven hunting list. Tao Manifestation List. First place, Myriad Heaven Saint. Silence reigned. It wasn't that Myriad Heaven Saint was on the list, but rather that the heaven hunting list seemed to have recovered a lot. It seemed to have learned how to rank itself. Previously, the Tao Manifestation List wasn't on the heaven hunting list. As for the Heavenly Treasures Hall, it wasn't very reliable either. First place had actually been taken away by Myriad Heaven Saint. In reality, without Myriad Heaven Saint's name before, he wasn't even quasi-invincible. Everyone quickly looked down. At this moment, they were all interested. How could the heaven hunting list, which had regained its power, rank the experts below invincible? Second place, Zhou Yue. Everyone was stunned again. Second place was Zhou Yue. Zhou Yue of the iron-eating ancient beast clan. Zhou Yue, who was so fat that he didn't want to move and ate and drank all day long, was the second place. Third, Long River, Fated Kin. There was nothing wrong with that. Previously, the other party was ranked second. Fourth, Heavenly Curse, Heavenly Abyss Clan. This person, who was ranked first previously, had actually fallen to fourth. The gap between the previous rankings wasn't small. Fifth, Kong Kong, Spatial Beast Clan. This wasn't a problem either. Sixth, Blue Sky, Human. The 4 sides fell silent once more. Lan Tian. Many people's expressions changed. Lan Tian was ranked 6th. This was the Tao manifestation board, which meant that he was almost ranked below invincible. Almost all of the top 10 had the strength to fight against invincible. Lan Tian could do it. What kind of joke was this? Lan Tian had fought against the invincible 3 incarnations before, but Lan Tian was not truly invincible. How could he be ranked 6th? 7th, Sky Devouring, Ho Clan. Oh, my old kid is even on the list. At this moment, a Ho King who was eating the power of flowing light appeared in the sky. He slapped a sun and moon bright bird to death with one claw and continued to eat, chuckling. Previously, this kid of mine was ranked 36th, but he managed to climb up 7th. Not bad. The group of people were shocked. The Ho Clan Sky Devouring clan was ranked 7th, but they had not seen it before. 8th, Gu Dang, Immortal. The group of people fell silent again. This was a descendant of Tian Gu. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2544, Chapter 2544, Chapter 546 Heaven Hunting List 5. Chapter 2544, Chapter 546 Heaven Hunting List 5. Number 9, Shui Futu, Demon Race. Number 10, Dotsung, Celestial Race. The top 10 rankings changed drastically. Compared to the previous rankings, the difference was huge. However, Yun Chen of the human race was only ranked 15th. This was an existence that had single-handedly slaughtered 3 quasi-invincible deities, yet he was only ranked 15th. As for Zhu Tiandao, who everyone thought was extremely powerful, he dropped from 97th place in an instant. However, being able to make it onto the rankings was already an extremely powerful existence. At this moment, the eyes of the group of people flickered. They hadn't expected this. The difference between the Tao manifestation rankings from before and now was too great. It was completely different. Many of those who had been ranked higher had dropped. Some of those who had been ranked lower had risen. The key was that since the others weren't much of a problem, then Lan Tian wasn't much of a problem either. This was what everyone was shocked about. He was ranked 6th, an existence that could fight unrivaled. Lan Tian, didn't he give it his all last time? The top 10 were 2 humans. Of course, with the presence of the 10,000 heavenly saints, no one was surprised. To be able to kill 2 invincible fellows and kill the invincible netherworld race was still considered luck. The other party was a 3-generation body, but to be able to kill Fan Hai, that was a true strength. Other than the 10,000 heavenly saints, many people were surprised. Someone chuckled and said, I didn't really care about it in the past, but now it seems like I was blind. September is ranked 2nd, only 2nd to the 10,000 heavenly saints. September has entered, right? Some people's expressions changed. Yes, September had entered. A fellow who was invincible in battle, perhaps, he could still be killed. After all, his ranking was quite high, only inferior to the 10,000 divine saints. At this moment, the void split open, and an incomparably powerful and enormous iron-eating beast appeared. It was also eating, and just like the old Ho, its mouth was dripping with oil. It said lazily, no fighting. My clan doesn't fight. That fellow September is hungry. Go find some food. Once he's full, he'll come out. Don T misunderstand. September was very weak. Some people sneered. Don't fight. Eat. Eat what? Eat gods or immortals. September, maybe he really went to eat immortals. Before this, all the races had already been interested in immortals. At this moment, an immortal king couldn't help but say angrily, our race's sun and moon suddenly lost 5 people. Could it be? Was it you guys who did it? Did Sky Devouring go in? It seemed like they went in as well. Damn it, these few great vicious races all had an incomparably powerful sun and moon that went in. They were existences that could fight unrivaled. None of them were good. Cough cough. At this moment, Unrivaled said, "Let's not talk about this anymore. Pavilion Master, can we contact the people inside now? Let's give it a try and adjust it. Perhaps we still need some time." The outside world was in an uproar. Just as the heaven hunting roll was about to merge into one, Suyu was about to leave when suddenly, the golden atlas in his mind trembled. The atlas trembled in his mind for a moment before quickly recovering its calm. Suyu frowned. This atlas hadn't moved for a long time. What was going on today? At that moment, the atlas trembled. Suyu thought that something was going to happen, but it quickly recovered. Was this a bad omen? But the calamity word divine text didn't even jump. And at this moment, Suyu was suddenly startled. He felt a slight movement. The tombstone that covered the sea of will also suddenly trembled. Suyu didn't feel it before, but at this moment, a force appeared. It was barely visible as it was bounced away by the tombstone. That force was very weak. It was bounced away and instantly dissipated. What is this? Suyu's heart skipped a beat. Someone is spying on me. Yes, someone must be spying on me. What can spy on me? Silently, this, is the heaven hunting list a peerless expert? Suyu was shocked. It couldn't be the heaven hunting list, right? However, there hadn't been any movement before. Why was there a sudden movement now? Suyu's expression changed. He quickly took out a book and rummaged through a huge space. As expected, he quickly found a heaven hunting list. He didn't lose it because he had killed many people. He was too lazy to pick it out and throw it away. In the starry mansion, the heaven hunting list wouldn't be able to cover it. However, at this moment, the heaven hunting list seemed to be flickering with a faint light. There seemed to be a slight movement. It was very weak, almost impossible to sense. What the hell? Suyu was extremely surprised. Wasn't this thing unable to cover the starry mansion? Moreover, in the time it took for the golden atlas to tremble, the tombstone seemed to have helped him block a peep. What did that mean? There was a slight change in the heaven hunting talent list, or perhaps it became stronger, allowing me to enter the starry mansion. When the change happened, my golden atlas trembled. Suyu's eyes flickered. What did this mean? My golden atlas had some connection with the heaven hunting list. What connection? Suyu frowned. So, the heaven hunting list might be mine. Yes, Suyu instantly came to a shocking conclusion. My things had been taken away. The heaven hunting list was mine. But, it had been taken away by the heaven hunting pavilion. I knew it. I was so friendly to the heaven hunting list, so I was quickly sent to first place. It turns out that the things are mine. Suyu snorted. Very well, I will get them back sooner or later. Forget it for now. However, there was one thing he knew. The outside world was trying to contact the heaven hunting list holders. Perhaps the change was too big, causing these guys to be anxious. Suyu quickly searched through the list and quickly found more than 50 heaven hunting list rankings. Suddenly, he laughed. It was so difficult to contact someone across the starry mansion. He probably could not identify anything, let alone locate anything. Suyu searched through the list for a while and typed out 2 words, but there was no response. Just in case, he did not use the list of the dead to avoid being detected. After searching for a while, he found a list that belonged to the human race. Previously, he had knocked out a few people and also took a few storage rings. As for whether the outside world could recognize who it belonged to, it was probably difficult. However, it was not a big mistake to be careful. Dead people could not send messages. Suyu laughed. He did not care if the list did not respond. If the outside world could really receive some news, it would be a good thing. They would know who did it. He too. At this moment, the word civilization instantly turned into the word he too on his cultural will. You are River Map, don't you have a map? This is River Map, your natal weapon. Suyu laughed. If someone died, it was all because of you, River Map. Anyway, you are prepared to do so. I am just cleaning up the battlefield for you. The sub-rankings, all the sub-rankings, were trembling slightly at this moment, but they could not contact each other for a long time. Suyu did not know how much time had passed, but it still did not work. He pursed his lips. Trash. Forget it, I'll help you. Mountain Tai. Boom. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The list that Suyu had written down the words River Map suddenly trembled. Those two words instantly turned into light and disappeared from the list. Suyu sealed his acupoints. Very quickly, all the sub-leaderboards trembled again, but they were still unable to send any messages. Suyu grinned. Interesting. As expected, I wasn't wrong. The furious old Zhou might have opened up some place in his anger, which allowed him to send messages out. However, it was only for an instant. So, if you want to contact the internal department, you'll have to rely on me. Suyu muttered. In that case, the information channel was under my control. I didn't know how much the outside world had paid for it. Thank you P. I hope you can still pass on some information to me. The prerequisite is that I have collected all the information on the heaven hunting list. Just as Suyu shouted out Taishan, two words suddenly appeared on the flickering heaven hunting list. It wasn't written in the language of the various races, but two ancient words of will, he too. At this moment, some people's expressions changed as if they had thought of something. They were in disbelief. River Map? Which River Map? Was it the River Map of the first title change or something else? How was that possible? And at this moment, there was an ancient existence whose voice shook the void. Brother Hong Meng, is the River Map still in the passageway? In the depths of the sea. Old Turtle was stunned for a moment. That's right, the River Map was lost. Damn. He too went to the Starry Mansion. How did he get there? To the 7th floor. But, going to the 7th floor had nothing to do with the lower floors. He too disappeared, went to the Starry Mansion. Old Turtle was stunned. There were too many meanings behind this. At this moment, he pretended not to hear the ancient existence's words. He was trying to kill little he too, but even if you knew, you wouldn't be able to kill him. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2545, Chapter 2545, Chapter 547 had a huge harvest L. Chapter 2545, Chapter 547 had a huge harvest L. Old Turtle was really surprised. He too had appeared in the Starry Manor, and it was on the lower level. This shouldn't have happened. Even if he had appeared, he shouldn't have massacred recklessly, and he shouldn't have massacred everyone. All of this meant one thing. He too didn't walk out from the undead passageway. He went in through another channel. Didn't he go to get reinforcements? Old Turtle was suspicious. Could it be that it had something to do with the reinforcements? Who did he go to find? He was still thinking. Slowly, the ancient existence in the void spoke again. Brother Hong Meng, did he too leave? Old Turtle came back to his senses and said slowly, no, he often leaves. I'm not sure where exactly. As soon as he said that, the void shook. Numerous powerful phantoms were projected over again. Someone said in surprise, he's not here. He too entered the Starry Mansion. How did he enter? Even if he did, he shouldn't have appeared on the first floor. The losses on the 7th floor aren't that great, but why are the losses on the lower floors so great? It was normal for a dead person to enter an invincible undead. In fact, everyone felt that not many people had died. The key wasn't that, but how did he too get in? Could it be that there's a passage to the Starry Palace in the dead spirit world? Impossible. If there is, why is it that only this time, something unexpected happened? This isn't the first time the Starry Palace has opened. One after another, experts appeared, causing the space of the heavenly battlefield to freeze. Even more ancient existences came out this time. The expressions of some of the invincible experts changed. Just how many old and undying existences were still alive in the myriad realms? Could it be that none of the previous 9 title changes had died? At the same time, the great Xia King was also stunned for a moment. He suddenly transmitted his voice, "Old Zhou, these ancient races all have some old and undying existences. What about the human race? The main character of the 9 title changes. Could it be that all of the undying ancients of the human race were gone? Forget about the ancient times. It was normal for all of them to die. If the human race did not die, the 10,000 races would not have the chance to overturn the situation. But all the experts that appeared during the 9 tide flows had died. They could be considered experts of the 10th tide flows. If this era ended, could it be that none of the tens of invincible experts would be able to survive? If they survived, then they would be considered old fogies. The great Zhou King said calmly, "Difficult. The first reason is that the human race's lifespan is not as long as theirs. Second, the human race doesn't have eternal realm civilized masters, and the warriors have a shorter lifespan to begin with. Many of these old antiques are actually double eternal. Third, we are the main characters of the 9 title changes. Time and time again, if we don't empty our foundations, the title changes won't count as an end. All in all, the humans had failed 9 times, and there were a few times when they had almost unified the heavens. Then, there was no then. The old fogies didn't agree. The great Zhou King said telepathically, "Don't look at how these old fogies are silent now. I suspect that they might have attacked the humans in the previous 9 tide flows." The great Xia King nodded slightly, his gaze solemn. This was very normal. Regardless of whether the human race wanted to unify the heavens or the myriad races in the heavens wanted to exterminate the human race, these old fogies might attack the human race at a critical moment. If they didn't attack now, it was just that the time wasn't right. They also didn't want to attack now and let others take advantage of them. During the 9 tide flows, many of the old fogies who had attacked had actually died. This time, for the 10th time, there was still no possibility of the human race unifying the heavens for the time being. The longer these old fellows lived, the more afraid they were of death, and they wouldn't rashly attack the human race for fear of causing an accident. Old Turtle couldn't be bothered with them and closed his eyes. Little River Map was gone. He had gone to the Starry Palace. In that case, there might be a way to escape to the Starry Palace in the Dead Soul world. Is this a way to escape for yourselves? Wait for the day when you can make a comeback. The old turtle murmured in his heart. This was the doing of the human race. This meant that after the human race had experienced 10 title changes since the ancient times, they had not exhausted their reserves. It was simply terrifying. They had died and entered the Dead Soul world. The passage was guarded, but there were still some ways to escape. For example, the Starry Palace. Was it going to wake up in the Starry Palace, awaken, and fight another glorious battle for the human race? The first 9 title changes were actually the appearance of top-tier human experts. Some were left behind from the last time, and in the first 3 times, there were even true ancient humans who fought. But now, it was the 10th time. Those old fellows had all died in battle. Moreover, if they really became undead spirits, would they care about race? At the very least, he too didn't care much. This fellow was even a descendant of the King of Man. After becoming an undead, he didn't pay much attention to the human race. Some of his memories were forgotten, and he even forgot some of the thoughts he had when he was still a human. Undead, were a new race. They were no longer human. Some of his past memories were like passing flowers. They only allowed him to look at the past of another person and know some of his past. However, the race was an undead race. Old Turtle was still thinking about the changes in the Starry Palace. Someone said again, "Brother Hong Meng, you are suppressing the undead realm. Can you investigate if there are any changes in the undead realm?" Old Turtle heard this. He said calmly, "I don't have the time or energy to investigate. If you are interested, you can come to Hong Meng City and help me guard this place. I can appoint some more guards. If you are willing to go down and take a look, I won't stop you." Silence. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2546, Chapter 2546, Chapter 547 reaped a huge harvest too. Chapter 2546, Chapter 547 reaped a huge harvest too. What a joke, who would be willing to be the guardian? This was no longer the ancient times. If the ancient times still existed, the human emperor and the parliament who set the rules would rotate periodically. Now that the human emperor was the guardian, the rules would not be destroyed, and the guardian would live on for an endless number of years. Unless, one day, someone surpassed the human emperor, surpassed the ancient times, broke the rules, or set new rules. Otherwise, even if Vaughn unified the heavens, it would be useless. There was a mother-in-law above, the rules. The rules would teach you how to behave. The old turtle said indifferently, "If you are unwilling, then forget it. I don't have the time to go to the world of souls to investigate anything. Or, if some of you are willing to go and see for yourselves, you can take advantage of the absence of he too to go in and try, whether you can come out or not, that is hard to say. Living beings could still go down. The point was that if you went down, you might not be able to come up." Xia Longwu and the others had actually gone down before, but they had only wandered around the tunnel once before leaving very quickly. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to leave even if they wanted to. The aura of living beings was too strong, and it would soon attract the attention of a large number of dead souls. There was silence again, and old Antique said with a smile, "Brother Hong Meng still likes to joke around." "I never joke." Old Turtle was indifferent. "I'm not anyone's subordinate. Don't question me anymore. Even Heavenly Lord Jian should mind his own business. If anyone thinks they can replace me and become the spirit-suppressing general, then come and try it yourself." He couldn't be bothered with these people's questions, and answering a few sentences was already considered polite. And at this moment, Heaven's destruction also wanted the world to be in chaos. He roared, "Hey, you bastard! You have guts. Are you looking for trouble with us? I remember you, the unnumbered general under the Earth-level marquee. Stepping into the third level, you think you're invincible. Believe it or not, I'll beat you to death with a stick." An ancient existence was speechless. "Crazy. I'm just asking, you're eager to come out and fight with me, right?" Even though he was speechless, this old antique still said indifferently, "Brother Tianmi, you're also the #1 general, so you don't like it, right?" Tianmi said disapprovingly, "That's not something you can compare to, old brat. We're here to defend together with our boss. Back then, we agreed that once the defense ended, would be conferred the title of Battle Spirit General. When I step into the Tao Merge realm, I will be the Battle Spirit Marquis. Who knew that the Parliament would make fun of me? After guarding for 1,000 years, I would just be annihilated. Who are you to reason with?" Heaven Extinguisher cursed and was a little angry. "You are all trash, no number general. Do you think you are worthy to fight with me?" At this moment, the others couldn't be bothered with him, including those guards in Yun Shao. None of them said anything. That was because, they were all no-account generals. They were all trash. The Parliament had indeed agreed to Heaven's destruction side, but unfortunately, everything ended before they could. The world had changed, and heaven's destruction no longer had the right to shake. Some of the juniors from the past had grown up. At this moment, heaven's destruction also felt something strange. He felt like a tiger that had fallen to the plains was being bullied by a dog. Suddenly, swearing, "You a general has become a motley road, treasure, you are also a waste. I was suppressed, you. Dabo, that's got a name. And so useless. You haven't even reached the 3rd level yet." In the void, the blessed-looking General Taupo was not angry either, "Brother Taimi, I have been recuperating for most of my life since ancient times, and I am no better than you. During the tide change, he too coveted my treasures and tried to kill me. However, I was tricked by this fellow once. I didn't expect to meet him again just as I left the mountain." He sighed helplessly. During the tide change, there were countless experts. He too was also forced into a corner. He wasn't the strongest human in that era, but he was the most vicious one. He became the master of the ancient city, opened the undead passageway, and led the undead to conquer the heavens. There were countless undead lords. The past that Suyu saw was just a few fragments. During that era, he too was still very fierce. He brought the undead lord and killed many old antiques, including many treasures. Someone said faintly, "Now isn't the time for a tide change. He too is also dead. How much of his memory is left? How many tricks does he have to turn into an undead spirit? The current him might not even be able to defeat a Tao King." In the distance, the Tao King frowned. "Why are you talking about me?" He was at least a level 7 Eternal Realm cultivator. He was just unlucky to have his 3 incarnations destroyed by the old turtle. Otherwise, he would not be so afraid of these guys. Although these old fogies were not weak, they were not all at the 3rd level of the Daemerge. There were also quite a number of high-level Eternal Realm existences. Just as everyone was discussing, on the side of the demon race, Moore frowned and said, "All right, we can talk about the seniors' matters later. Now that the heaven hunting roll can pass through the starry mansion, we can send messages. It is still unclear whether he too is the he too of the dead soul world. How can we resolve this crisis? In the starry mansion, not only are there members of our families, but also all of us. Even if the humans think that he too was a human when he was alive, would they not kill you?" As soon as he said this, the great Zhou King said faintly, "It's hard to say. Few humans have died. Perhaps it's because he too still cares about old friendships. No matter what, he is still a human, so, to solve the problem, it's just that your problem has nothing to do with us." He did not care whether it was caused by he too or not. The fact that few humans had died was a fact. Even if it was caused by he too, he might have really shown mercy to the human race. You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2547, Chapter 2547, Chapter 547 yielded a huge harvest 3. Chapter 2547, Chapter 547 yielded a huge harvest 3. Since that was the case, it was a matter of life and death for the other races. In the outside world, all parties were discussing how to solve the problem. Moreover, they were still sending messages to their internal departments, hoping to obtain more information. Unfortunately, Suyu did not open it anymore. The talent hunter rankings were slightly trembling, attracting the attention of some of the living people who held the rankings. The key was that there was no way to present the information. Hee hee. Suyu sneered. "I can open it if I want to. If I don't want to open it, don't even think about transmitting a single word." He couldn't be bothered with it anymore. After confirming that the heaven-hunting talent list could only transmit information when it was vibrating, Suyu didn't bother with it anymore. On the 3rd floor, he had something to do. Treasure hunting. Smiley Lotus and Tianhe Sand. As those people were killed, Suyu's civilized will became stronger. the 146th golden pattern faintly appeared. Old Turtle said that the smiley-face lotus was an ornamental treasure. Since that was the case, where was the most beautiful scenery? Su Yu looked around. It was probably this heavenly river waterfall. The waterfall fell from the sky. The scenery here was beautiful. Of course, it would be even more beautiful if some things were overlooked. At this moment, he was looking at some information left behind by Wu Lan. His eyes were strange. Bile? That's great. Su Yu muttered. How did you TN1 in KOT Dil? I didn't even think of it that way. Wu Lan, did she cut people and study them? It's hard to say. Su Yu seriously doubted it. Otherwise, it would be difficult for normal people to think of it. A waterfall that existed since ancient times. If you said it was bile. TSK, even in ancient times, no one would believe it. According to Wu Lan's words, it might be a liver. Are you kidding me? Su Yu gritted his teeth. If you took away something like a liver, could old Zhou go crazy? Even if he went crazy, he would have to kill me. This treasure was really not easy to take away. This is difficult. I just don't know if there are any gallstones. If there are, I can take it away. That thing has been deposited for countless years. It can be considered a supreme treasure, right? Su Yu muttered. It was better to forget about things like livers. This bile had been flowing for countless years. Perhaps it could form some gallstones. In the heavenly river below, the source above might even exist. The heavenly river sand can be considered a kind of gallstone, right? However, when he saw Wu Lan's analogy, which was similar to bile salt, Su Yu quickly recalled. After a long while, he realized that only he had a profound knowledge of bile salt. Otherwise, it would be difficult to know what it was. This woman is scary. Maybe she really has done some research on people in private. Wu Lan was also very knowledgeable. For example, the treasure of Mount Xinglua was actually the clue Wu Lan provided. That woman knew a little about everything. Previously, Su Yu easily found the treasure of Mount Xinglua through a few grasses. With this in mind, Su Yu took a deep breath. Taking advantage of the absence of the river map, he quickly took out the treasure. Rumble. The moment Su Yu stepped into the waterfall, he knew why no one went straight into the water and instead picked up the sand outside. It was extremely painful. The water of the waterfall actually had the effect of breaking down one's physical body. At this moment, Su Yu's 72-layer physical body, along with 2 layers of defense, actually felt like it was being dissolved. Damn it! Su Yu cursed in a low voice. This damned place, even under the 7th layer of the sun and moon, wouldn't be able to enter. The key point was, even if he was at the 7th layer of the sun and moon, he wouldn't be able to reach the 3rd layer. It wouldn't be that easy to come down. No wonder no one came in. His feet stepped on the water, and his legs felt like they were about to be corroded. Wu Lan and the others, as soon as they stepped in, they probably turned into water. No wonder the few hundred people, no one entered the water to rob the heavenly river sand. They were all picking up some scattered sand that washed out from the shore. Terrifying. Even Su Yu felt extreme pain, let alone the others. He took a step forward, and with a rumble, the waterfall fell on his body. The enormous pressure made Su Yu's bones creak. Pooh! Su Yu was directly pressed until he vomited blood, and couldn't help but curse again. However, not to mention, this bile was actually a good thing. This thing had a certain degree of corrosiveness. Of course, that was under the condition of reverse flow. But now, wasn't it reverse flow? Under normal circumstances, this thing would instead neutralize stomach acid. It was alkaline and did not have corrosiveness. Now, since it had corrosiveness, it could be caused by reverse flow. Su Yu muttered in his heart. Then, did this mean that old Joe was really hung upside down by a golden hook, his head was broken, and his hair was inserted into the world of souls? How tragic! Mount Tai was poisonous, the human emperor was poisonous, and the one who forged the starry mansion was poisonous. Of course, these three might be one person, but they were all poisonous. How could they treat old Joe like this? How good was I? Even my corpse was put into the book of civilization. Su Yu found pleasure in his misery and continued to walk toward the cliff behind him. Behind the heavenly river that soared into the sky was a cliff. Could it be the flesh? Forget it, Su Yu couldn't be bothered. As he walked, he collected some of the sky river sand in the water. There was a lot of it. Perhaps it was because no one could go deep into it. Su Yu still remembered this treasure very clearly. When the Sea of Consciousness realm was opened, it needed this. The Divine Language Department had used up all the sky river sand to open it just once. Usually, the Sea of Consciousness realm was very useless. But once there was enough heavenly river sand, that place would be a supreme treasure land. At least it would be a supreme treasure land for civilized masters. Even now, Su Yu still had a lingering aftertaste of that pure willpower. Is a sack enough for these? Su Yu picked some up. There were actually a lot of them in the water, but the current really corroded him, causing him some pain. Su Yu looked around while looking for the smiley face lotus. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2548, Chapter 2548, Chapter 547 yielded a huge harvest for. Chapter 2548, Chapter 547 yielded a huge harvest for. He wasn't sure if it was here, so he could only look for it. That was good stuff. If he couldn't find it, he would pick up the Milky Way sand. Soon, Su Yu's legs were almost corroded. He hurriedly stepped on a rock and rested his feet on it. He sucked in a cold breath and continued to endure the intense pain from the impact of the waterfall. After resting for a while, he was about to leave. Su Yu was stunned for a moment. Rock? Where did the rock come from? He turned his head to look at the place where he had just landed. After a long while, he was stunned. Damn it! Milky Way sand. This. Milky Way sand the size of a millstone. He just wanted to ask if anyone had seen it before. The Milky Way sand was very small. It was about the size of a bean. It could be considered quite big, but this rock in front of him, was this also Milky Way sand? Damn, it's so big. Su Yu was dumbstruck. How many times would he have to open the Sea of Consciousness secret realm? Is 1,000 times enough? He didn't believe that just the Divine Language Department could collect how much heavenly river sand. 1 or 2 caddies was too much, right? But this big stone, was about 1 or 2,000 caddies, right? Su Yu hurriedly reached out his hand to grab the stone. With a low shout, he pulled the stone out of the river and took a deep breath. Damn, it was even bigger down there. It was more than 1 or 2,000 jin. It was almost 10,000 jin. This. F***ck. If I open the Sea of Consciousness realm, I can open it for 10,000 days for 1 jin a day. Su Yu was extremely shocked. He searched around to see if there was such a stone. Needless to say, there really was one. Soon, Su Yu gritted his teeth. Suddenly, he dived into the underground river. He was thinking about a question. Since this thing had such a strong corrosive power, then was the bottom of the river full of heavenly river sand? Otherwise, would it be corroded? Moreover, Su Yu emerged from the surface of the water. His entire body was emitting smoke and sizzling. However, he was holding a large amount of heavenly river sand in his hands. Damn, so much. Su Yu was amazed. There was a lot of heavenly river sand below. However, it wasn't made of milky sand down there. It might be flesh and blood. He didn't see anything similar to milky sand, but there was a lot of milky sand scattered down there. So much, why are we still looking for the source? Su Yu quickly dived down and kept searching. There were so many good things. If he brought this thing back and borrowed the Great Xia Mansion's Sea of Consciousness secret realm to use, or even made his own equipment, wouldn't he have an endless stream of pure willpower to use? Whether it was him, Zhao Li, or Lu Wenyan, all of them actually lacked willpower. Everyone lacked it. All civilized masters lacked it. There was no civilized master who didn't lack it. At this moment, Su Yu no longer said that the heavenly river sand was trash. He accepted it, and he continued to accept it. This thing stimulated Su Yu even more than carrying objects. What was the use of carrying objects? I don't lack them. No, I really lack them. However, I really don't have that thing. Actually, it's nothing much. However, the heavenly river sand is great. With this thing, one might be able to extract pure willpower from blood essence, books, and many other things. This was extremely important to civilized masters. Although Su Yu wasn't strong enough as a civilized master, it didn't mean that he wasn't strong. For example, the various characteristics of the divine runes. Without these divine runes, Su Yu was just an ordinary person with sun and moon battle strength. Without the divine runes, he wouldn't have such a strong civilized will. Without the divine runes, he wouldn't be able to disguise himself as invincible and not be able to see through it. It was difficult to see through the half-imperial capital. Without the divine texts, how could he judge the existence of danger? Without the divine texts, Su Yu would not have been able to reach his current state. It seemed that the divine texts were not strong enough now, and they were inferior to the physical body. However, Su Yu had never given up on the powerful divine texts. The power of the divine texts was what allowed him to run amok. Therefore, he had raised all the divine texts to level 4, and 2 of them had even reached level 5. Only in this way could he use the strength of the path of the fighter to defeat opponents of the same strength, because they did not have as many methods as Su Yu. He dived, and kept diving. Before the tribulation, divine inscriptions jumped crazily. Su Yu was not in a hurry to leave. He too might sweep the second floor, and he would wait for him to come before running. More than an hour later, Su Yu bared his teeth, smiling so much that his teeth were about to split open. 30,000 caddies, right? He bared his teeth. Other people would harvest by the grain, but he would do it by the caddy. If it didn't work, he would do it by the ton. Hee hee. Su Yu couldn't help but laugh. He was delighted and delighted. He was thinking. He was looking at the 2 huge rocks in his book. Only these 2 rocks. 20,000 caddies, right? In the future, who would tell him that the heavenly river sand was rare? He would throw a huge rock at it. He still remembered that when he was in Bai Feng's private laboratory, he had secretly absorbed some willpower. Bai Feng had almost burst into tears when he thought that it would consume the heavenly river sand. If he were to go back to the past now. I will smash you to death with a rock. Su Yu could imagine how crazy Bai Feng would be when he saw this huge rock, the heavenly river sand. He would probably foam at the mouth and go crazy with excitement. This must be called heavenly river stone. Su Yu hurriedly put away all the heavenly river sand. The smile on his face never stopped. Soon, he rushed toward the back of the waterfall. Just as he dived down, he seemed to have seen a treasure land. He didn't know if it was a smiley face lotus. After a moment, Su Yu was like a cooked crab. His whole body was red. He finally crossed the waterfall. After the waterfall, it was very quiet. There was a small pool here. And beside the pool, there was actually a stone table. It was as if someone had played chess and chatted here in the past, and came to drink tea or something like that. The small pool was full of flowers, lotus flowers. It was very beautiful, very dazzling. Su Yu looked at it, and it was as if he could see the lotus flower smiling at him. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2549, Chapter 2549, Chapter 547 yielded a huge harvest 5. Chapter 2549, Chapter 547 yielded a huge harvest 5. Smiley Lotus. Su Yu muttered. He was pleasantly surprised. It was really here. F***ck, most people wouldn't be able to come to this place. He wasn't in a hurry to look at the Smiley Lotus. Instead, he looked at the stone table. The stone table was placed there, as if it had been there for countless years. 2 chairs were placed on both sides. In the past, there might have been countless important figures behind the waterfall. They looked at the waterfall while admiring the lotus flowers. Of course, if it was on the 3rd floor, there might be a limit to the number of important figures. Perhaps it was just some sun, moon, or invincible figures. There might be fewer half-emperors. Su Yu took a step forward and looked at the stone table. After carefully sensing it, he shook his head, he sighed. Poor. I can't believe that it hasn't reached the strength of a vessel. At most, it can be used as a material to forge a heavenly weapon. However, since it's so big, it might be possible to forge a heavenly weapon. Then there's hope for it to become a vessel. Su Yu had a heavenly weapon. At this moment, he had 2 in his hands. Both of them had been suppressed by the book. Previously, after killing those people, he had obtained a heavenly weapon. Moreover, the quality of the weapons was not bad. Only 109 golden patterns could be considered a heavenly weapon. However, it was only a beginner heavenly weapon. Under normal circumstances, this kind of heavenly weapon was actually very difficult to be used as a bearing object. It was not sturdy enough. A heavenly weapon was of medium grade. Around 118 golden patterns were enough to be used as a bearing object. As for the 2 swords in Su Yu's hands, one had 120 golden patterns, and the other only had 109. In other words, one of them could be used as a carrying object, and the other one could not. I'll destroy them all later. This seems to be an invincible thing. I don't want to be discovered, destroyed, and integrated into the book. Su Yu put away the stone table and chair. They were all good things. However, he had seen too many good things. Now that he had them in his hands, he didn't feel much. At this moment, he looked at the pond on the mountain rock. The lotus flowers bloomed flirtatiously. It was very beautiful. It was as if there were peerless beauties laughing, playing, and splashing water. Su Yu looked at it for a while and hurriedly shook his head. Good stuff. This thing was good stuff. Old Turtle said that lotus seeds are extremely poisonous and lotus roots are healing treasures. Lotus flowers are useless and are just for looking at, but lotus flowers are the true treasures. Su Yu muttered to himself. In the ancient times, there were many people who could not differentiate between the two. It was a joke. In this era, how many people could differentiate between the two? I have to sell it as a 9-leafed sky lotus. Of course, I have to sell it in a low-key manner. Otherwise, I can only sell it to one shop. If I keep a low-key manner, I can sell it to countless shops. If everyone gets this thing, they will definitely have to hide it. When the time came, TSK, it wouldn't be expensive to sell one item per item, right? He took a look at the pond and sucked in a breath of cold air. Let me see. 188 flowers. Holy sh*t, where can I find 188 customers? That's the problem. However, I think everyone wants to be invincible. It's easy to find 188 invincible in the myriad realms. The key is that it's too difficult not to kill people and steal the goods. Su Yu took a deep breath. If he sold this thing and sold it as a vessel, everyone would definitely fight over it. The most important thing was how to trick the customers, cough cough, how to make everyone believe that he could get the 9-leaf sky lotus. If it was true and it didn't fall into his hands but was snatched away by someone else, then there would be no way to trick them. Even if he could trick them, he wouldn't be able to trick many of them. Only if it was really in his hands would everyone believe that what he took out was true. Let's collect it first. Suyu took out a jade box and quickly dropped it into the water. He began to collect the smiley face lotuses. Old Turtle said that it was useless. In fact, these lotuses were very strong. They were comparable to Xian weapons. Of course, to Old Turtle, it was just a scenery. Xian weapons were nothing. Earth weapons were nothing. He collected a smiley face lotuses and looked at it carefully. The 9 leaves were very beautiful. There were golden patterns on the leaves, but as Old Turtle said, they were not neat and messy. As for the real 9-leafed lotus, the patterns were very neat. That was the difference. Of course, there were also ugly 9-leafed lotus whose patterns were not very neat. Good stuff. Suyu quickly picked all the lotus flowers. Soon, he dived into the water and dug out 1 to 200 lotus roots. They were very small, but they were crystal clear, like crystals. Good stuff. Suyu praised. He did not know if these things grew naturally or if it was some tissue in his body. The chances are that they exist naturally, right? Suyu thought to himself. Otherwise, if there were lotus flowers growing in his body, it would not have such a function. Perhaps someone had transplanted them. He comforted himself for a while, mainly to say that these lotus roots could be eaten, but it would not be uncomfortable to eat them. Very soon, Suyu washed the lotus root and took a bite. He sucked in a breath of cold air. Damn, it was so delicious. Sweet, refreshing, and crisp. After a few bites, he swallowed the lotus root. The refreshing energy spread throughout his entire body, and his previously damaged skin, bones, and flesh were rapidly recovering. Suyu's aura was growing stronger at a speed visible to the naked eye. D*Mn, a few hundred lotus roots. This thing is a holy healing product. Even one of them is comparable to the legendary heavenly pill, right? Suyu swallowed his saliva and took another bite. He felt like salivating. More importantly, he could still recover from his injuries. That was the most satisfying part. With just a single lotus root, Suyu's injuries were almost healed. Terrifying. This thing, I won't be afraid of my body exploding next time. The prerequisite is that I can still regrow my flesh and blood. Then, I'll eat one of them. There were hundreds of them. Suyu was even more delighted. The 3rd floor was a treasure ground. The 1st floor had obtained quite a number of object-grade treasures, the 2nd floor had obtained the ancient dragon blood tree, and the 3rd floor had obtained a large amount of heavenly river sand as well as refined lotus roots. This starry sky mansion had too many treasure grounds. In his hands were some crystal clear lotus seeds. They looked very beautiful, but Old Turtle had said that they were extremely poisonous and might be able to poison the sun and moon to death. Forget it, I won't try this out. I can try it out with the sun and moon of the myriad clans. I don't know if there are any idiots who will eat them. Let me see if I can poison you to death after eating them. I've made a huge profit. Suyu gathered some more waterfalls and wanted to fly up to see if there were any gall stones. However, halfway up, Suyu's expression changed slightly. He ran away. Forget about the gall stones, he didn't dare to take the liver either. In fact, he couldn't take it away either. The key was that he felt a sense of danger again. He too might be coming up soon. Thank you, he too, for coming so late. I thank you. Suyu silently said in his heart, thank you, I have gained a lot. I will also throw the blame onto you perfectly. Thank you. The next time I meet you, I will definitely be more polite to you. He left. Suyu disappeared into the void and disappeared in an instant. After Suyu ran away from the entrance of the third floor, he too only went up to the third floor after a while. At this moment, there were even more undead behind him, more than 300 of them. He too frowned slightly. The third floor, there were not many people. This was not important. It was normal to go up or die. But, why did he feel uncomfortable every time he went up to the first floor? He kept feeling like someone was plotting against him. And just now, he actually felt like there was more than one person. Or rather, he felt like he was being schemed against, it hadn't disappeared until now. He looked at Dummy with a strange look in his eyes. Was this Dummy playing dumb with him? Did he regain his memory and was preparing to plot against him? Was it? He looked at Dummy and Dummy looked at him blankly. He too looked at each other with a fake smile. He snorted in his heart. Trying to plot against me? No way. I'll keep my eyes on you. The third floor. I'm going to start sweeping the floor. He too was in a good mood. He laughed out loud, regardless of how uncomfortable he felt just now. Dummy, go block the passage. Ha ha ha, I'm going to sweep the third floor. He too was in a good mood. Soon, the aura of death spread to the third floor. He was going to sweep the floor one by one. I'm not in a hurry. I'll make everyone who comes in this time feel fear. The people outside are probably scared silly too. With so many people dead, no one would have thought that I would come in. He too was delighted. No one would have thought. And no one would have known. Because even he himself didn't expect that he would come in. How would outsiders know? The outside world was probably going crazy. Why would so many people die? I've killed hundreds of people. He too laughed loudly. I've killed so many that your hearts ached, right? I've killed more than 300 of the 3,600 spots. At this moment, he didn't know that Suyu had killed nearly 600 people. And these pots were all his. In the outside world, the invincible and half-emperors all hated he too to death. It was too detestable. At this moment, the number of casualties was still rising, and more channels were being broken. Unfortunately, no one replied to the news. The heaven hunting list was broken in the end. Even if they were one, they were only pieced together, they were no longer one entity. He too, you bastard. At this moment, the outside world released a declaration of hatred. Even if he died, he would cause chaos in the world. He was even more hateful than Suyu. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2550, Chapter 2550, Chapter 548 Corpse Collection Directory L. Chapter 2550, Chapter 548 Corpse Collection Directory L. The fourth level. When Suyu stepped into the fourth level, he felt a special feeling. His 5 internal organs were like an oven. His internal organs were burning. Suyu took a deep breath. On this level, he felt the power of the 5 elements. In the path of cultivation, it was often said that the 5 internal organs versus the 5 elements. Suyu instantly understood that this level might be where the 5 internal organs and 6 internal organs were located. Or to put it another way, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 3rd levels might be within the entire abdominal cavity. The areas where the 5 viscera and 6 bowels were located, including the area where the navel was located. What about the arms? Suyu thought to himself. He did not seem to see his hands. If he was really stabbed into the ground, the arms might hang down. Could it be that they were also in the underground level? Both arms had been stabbed into the death spirit world. There was still a possibility. At this layer, ignoring everything else, the concentration of Yuan Qi was beyond imagination. The lungs and heart should be in this area, right? Su Yu muttered in his heart. Heart. This was rather important to any cultivator. Even Su Yu, if his heart really exploded, to the point where he could not regenerate his flesh and blood, then he would be dead. His body would be dead. At that time, his only method was to preserve his sea of consciousness and regenerate his body. However, if his heart wasn't completely destroyed, he could regenerate his body by dripping blood or regenerating his body. It was just a little weaker, but his body realm was still there. He didn't need to start from scratch. If the heart is on this level, I should go take a look. Let's find it. Su Yu thought to himself as he looked down at the passageway. His gaze was changing constantly. He too was also sweeping through the layers. This time, it was truly a catastrophe. At least he wasn't considered to be completely barren. On the other hand, he too had truly left no one alive. Now, it was likely that many people had died. There were definitely thousands. This year, it's too tragic. Su Yu shook his head. This was not his fault. At the very least, the human race could not blame him. If the human race died, it had nothing to do with Su Yu. He had killed so many races. Logically speaking, the human race should have some advantage. It was a pity that he too killed indiscriminately. Moreover, he was going up layer by layer. If this continued, the weak would have to join hands soon. Otherwise, they would not be able to go up higher. The higher the layer, the more dangerous it would be. For example, on the fourth layer, Su Yu could already feel a fire burning in his 5 internal organs. The weak would probably be burned to death before long. Wu Lan and the others are very weak. Su Yu frowned slightly. These people were the ones who were floating in the air. It would be fine if they stayed on the lower 3 layers, but on the middle 3 layers, even if they just stayed here, it would be a form of torture. I wonder how many people are on the 4th level, and if there are Sun-Moon Realm experts. At this level, there might be some Sun-Moon Realm experts. Those who were not too old and were not too strong, including Lu Wenyan and the others, might be on the 4th level. Of course, 3 days had passed. This was already the 4th day. They might have already left the 4th level and gone up to the higher levels. Just as Su Yu reached the 4th level. On the 4th level, there was a special place. The entire 4th level could be seen. There were 2 huge mountains standing on both sides of the 4th level. Between the 2 mountains, there was a V-shaped canyon. If Su Yu looked at it from the other side, he would be able to tell that. It was a pipeline connecting the lungs. However, here, it formed an enormous canyon. There were people on both of the mountains. The lungs were the main breath. It had the effect of breathing in and out of the lungs. The battles on the 4th level were less because the 4th level was very suitable for some people to cultivate. By cultivating on the top of the 2 mountains, they could strengthen their qi and blood, and their physical bodies. The efficiency of breathing in and out of the lungs was 100 times or even 1,000 times more than in the outside world. On the 4th level, one's internal organs would be burned. However, as long as one persevered and cultivated on the mountains, a cool feeling would quickly appear and resolve this crisis. The 4th level was also an area where many people strengthened themselves. On the 4th level, almost all the experts below the sun and moon were gathered. The first 3 levels were almost finished. Now, almost all the living people under the sun and moon were gathered on the 4th level. On both sides of the mountains, there were many people. There were about 2,200 people in the entire starry manor. On the 4th floor, there were close to 1,500 people gathered. Even the human race had around 300 people on this floor. Xia Huyo and the others led a group of people into the 4th floor and quickly gathered with the other humans. They occupied the east side of the mountains, and there were about 300 humans. These were probably all the living humans below the sun and moon. Including those who had left earlier, some were still on the 3rd level. They were doomed. A small number of them had reached the 4th level, but at this moment, they were also ostracized by many people. On the mountain to the east, the humans gathered together. Everyone was cultivating, and as they cultivated, they listened to Xia Huyo and the others talk about what had happened in the 3rd level. Many people's expressions changed. The undead had arrived. The invincible undead. The strongest person in this place was none other than Zhu Tiandao's son, Zhu Guangshan, who was also Zhu Hongwen's father, Zhu Hongliang's uncle. He had stepped into the sun and moon, but it was only the 1st level. He had been staying here all this while. At this moment, hearing Xia Huyo and the others talk, Zhu Guangshan frowned slightly and said, "Nephew Huyo, you said that the undead used a book and killed hundreds of people. The book contained divine power." Xia Huyo nodded and thought, could this person know that it was Su Yu's? Books were very rare. Of course, it was not rare either. There were still some. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2551, Chapter 2551, Chapter 548, Catalogue of Corpses 2. Chapter 2551, Chapter 548, Catalogue of Corpses 2. As for Su Yu's book, everyone had seen some projections when he forged it last time, but it was very illusory. No one knew exactly what it looked like, not to mention that Su Yu had only forged Earth soldiers last time. However, the book that everyone had seen was at least at the heavenly soldier level, and it was extremely powerful. Zhu Guangshan said again, that dead spirit can speak. He said that he was the vanguard under He too. He too. Zhu Guangshan muttered. Someone did not understand and asked, Your Highness, who is He too? Who is He too? Zhu Guangshan thought for a moment before replying, I'm actually not too sure who He too is. Didn't Su Yu mention it the last time we allocated quotas? He said that he was forced to learn He too. After that, the humans did some understanding. Zhu Guang thought for a moment and said hesitantly, there are some things that my uncle told me. As soon as he said this, everyone immediately pricked up their ears. In terms of information, Zhu Tianfang was definitely the only one who was well informed. He was the minister of the Huang department who had information, so there was probably no information that could be hidden from him. The river map, the human powerhouse who experienced the first tidal change. Zhu Guangshan explained, before us, there were actually 9 changes of tides after the ancient times. The so-called change of tides refers to the opening of the heavenly battlefield, the outbreak of a great war, and the war of 10,000 worlds. Every time the great war ends, the heavenly battlefield closes down. This is a change of tides. Once, including the opening and closing time, it will last for about 10,000 years. So, strictly speaking, he too was a figure from about 100,000 years ago. To be able to leave behind some legends after so many years, he was also the proud son of that era. He too, the descendant of a peerless expert in the ancient times, was born after the ancient times was destroyed. Since the first tide change, he too has made a name for himself on the battlefield of the heavens. It can be compared to Su Yu. He looked at the crowd, with a bitter smile, he said, let's not talk about it, he too is very similar to Su Yu. He too is also a genius like Su Yu, who has made rapid progress and entered the invincible realm within a short period of time. However, he is also a troublemaker like Su Yu. Not long after, he was attacked by a half-emperor realm expert. Helpless, he had no choice but to choose to become the master of Hongmeng ancient city and save his life. This method is really similar to Su Yu's. Hearing his words, the others nodded as well. They were all a little surprised. It was really similar. Zhu Guang took a deep breath and said, after that, he too went into hibernation for a period of time. During the middle stage of the first tidal change, during the War of the 10,000 Races, he too was actually forgotten because he was restricted in the ancient city. However, he too was unwilling to be a supporting character of that era, unwilling to spend the rest of his life in the ancient city. Therefore, during the middle and late stage of the first tidal change, he came out again. He led his army of undead spirits to sweep across the universe, and a war that lasted for hundreds of years broke out. In the end, the undead spirits lost control, and Hongmeng closed the passage of the undead spirits, cutting off the source of the aura of death, cutting off their escape route, and personally killed he too. Only then did the first tidal war end. At this point, Xia Huyo could not help but ask, how did he manage to bring the undead outside? Also, isn't there a rule in ancient city? Why didn't he stop them in the beginning and only stop them later? I'm not sure about that. Zhu Guangshan shook his head, it's been too long. Even the heaven hunting pavilion doesn't have any more records. After that, I heard that he too had always existed in the undead passageway in Hongmeng ancient city. He had consumed the fruit of life and death and retained some of his memories. He was unwilling to lose. These are the records of the heaven hunting pavilion. After countless years, he actually came out again. Someone said excitedly, he's a human. Zhu Guangshan laughed, yes, he's a human. Do you think he wouldn't kill you if he was a human? What were you thinking? Zhu Guangshan smiled, don't talk about the dead, even if he's alive, do you think he would care about the lives of ants like us? He too was the leading figure in the later stage of the first tidal change. He conquered all the worlds in the universe and killed countless people. He wouldn't care about our lives. Many undefeatable people died at his hands. Everyone's expressions changed. Then he has already reached the third level. This. What should we do? If they continue to go up, some people might not be able to hold on. There were experts on the 7th level, and there were many unrivaled experts. However, the first was that they might not be able to go up. The second was that it was too dangerous. There were so many unrivaled experts there, and there weren't many unrivaled experts among the human race. If they were careless, they would all die. Moreover, he too was so strong back then, and the undefeatable beings that came in this time might not be that strong. Could they match up to he too? The group of people started to get nervous. Many people asked, Your Highness Huyu, is the undead that attacked earlier also undefeatable? Only the undefeatable undead can speak, right? The other party is also a human, and he even helped you guys. Then, can we use him to have some discussions with he too? Xia Huyo shook his head, it's difficult. Besides, I don't dare to go. If you want to go, you can go. Sometimes, the undead will retain some of their memories, but that doesn't mean that they really treat themselves as humans. Besides, I feel that the other party is evil as well, so I'd better forget about it. Don't place your hopes on negotiations. He said calmly. When we're at the same level of strength, we can talk about negotiations. If the difference in strength is too great, negotiations are just like getting beaten up. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2552, Chapter 2552, Chapter 548, Corpse Collection Directory 3. Chapter 2552, Chapter 548, Corpse Collection Directory 3. The group of people were all frowning. Someone else said, Your Highness Zhu, that book that Your Highness who you mentioned. It might be he too's weapon. Zhu Guangshan explained, he too's famous weapon is also a book. Perhaps it was reforged after death. No wonder it's so strange. Xia Huyo didn't know if Zhu Guangshan was saying this on purpose or if it was true. He also said, no wonder I feel that death and the divine exist together. It's extremely powerful. So it's he too's natal weapon. That makes sense. As he spoke, in the crowd, a young man said softly, there's no need to discuss this now. Everyone, where should we go? The 4th level is actually the most suitable for cultivation. The higher levels are extremely dangerous. If we don't leave, once the other party comes, we'll definitely die. Zhu Guang took a deep look at the surroundings of the mountain peak. There were not only them on this mountain, there were also experts from other races. There were not many small races, and not far away, the immortals were also here. As for the other mountain, it was mainly the gods and demons. On both sides, there were 700 to 800 people gathered. Zhu Guangshen could be considered their elder, and he was also an expert who had stepped into the sun and moon. At this moment, he thought for a moment and said, the 5th level is dangerous, and now it's a common crisis. If it doesn't work, we can try to unite with the other parties. Join forces with these people. Someone said unwillingly, if they die, so be it. It's better for us to leave alone and explore the 5th level. It's best if they die. Zhu Guangshen smiled and said, the news can't be hidden. I saw it. Actually, there are also experts from other races who came up from the 3rd level. This was true. After Xia Huyo and the others came up for a while, people from other races followed them. At that time, Suyu was still digging for treasures and didn't have time to hunt people. At this moment, the immortals were also slightly shaken. The undead had arrived. Sovereign level. And this news quickly spread. Not only on this mountain, in the valley below, and on the mountain in the west, there were people who knew about it. For a moment, the atmosphere froze. Invincible. The strongest ones on the 4th level were only a few sun and moon experts, and there weren't even intermediate ones. They were all primary sun and moon experts. With such strength, let alone invincible, a single sun and moon expert would probably be able to slaughter all of them. The 4th floor was truly a good place to cultivate. Many people had already advanced to the next level within 3 days. Unless they had no other choice, they didn't want to leave or take the risk. However, the invincible undead had charged up from below. If they didn't leave now, it might be a disaster. For the time being, it was necessary for them to leave. However, as for how they should go, whether they should go together with the other clans or alone, that was a problem that the other clans had to consider. It was safer to go together. However, everyone hated each other, and they didn't want to go together. If they went alone, the passage from the 4th floor to the 5th floor was actually more dangerous. If no one protected them, they could enter the 5th floor in large numbers. Some of the weaker ones might not be able to hold on. At this moment, Suyu also stepped onto a huge mountain. As he walked, he used the breathing technique to cultivate. Suyu didn't really use the breathing technique anymore, but on the way, he tried it out. He didn't expect the effect of the breathing technique to be so good in this place. The spine acupuncture point might be on one of the 4, 5, 6, and 3 levels. I have to find the way to operate this acupuncture point. Suyu thought to himself. He judged that this mountain should be one of the lungs in his lungs. The position of the spinal acupuncture point is not too far from here. Will the heart be on the 4th floor? If not, then it will be on the 5th floor. If the 5th floor is the heart, then the spinal acupuncture point might be on the 5th floor. Suyu compared himself and judged for a while. He needed at least 2 acupuncture points to operate, one in the spinal acupuncture point and one in the heavenly acupuncture point. The position of the heavenly acupuncture point was rather awkward, perhaps it was on the 7th floor. If it was the spinal aperture, it might be on this floor. The key was that once he found the acupuncture point, he would have to call out to Taishan. Once he called out, the outside world and this side would be able to communicate. This was not what Suyu wanted. When I call out, the vibration on this floor is the most intense. The heaven hunting list is most likely to send a message to this floor, but it is relatively more difficult to send a message from above. Suyu used the breathing technique to refine his acupoints and body while thinking about something. Soon, he reached the mountainside. After sensing for a while, he smiled. Gods and devils were the main forces. So many. Under the sun and moon, other than a few geniuses who had gone to the higher levels, most of them were probably here. Not only gods and devils, there were also some aboriginals. There were some races that Suyu had never seen before. There was no place for these races on the pages of his book. Perhaps this time, he could add some pages. 301 pages might not be enough. 7 to 800. That's too many. It's not easy to kill. 7 to 800. Even Suyu did not dare to forcefully kill them. If there were any mistakes, whoever released the heavenly soldier or the invincible essence blood, there was a possibility of capsizing in the gutter. There wasn't much fighting on the fourth floor now, and assassinations weren't very effective. It would be more troublesome if a group of people gathered together. Suyu pondered and walked up with his invisible body. When he was a few hundred meters away from the nearest great demon, Suyu stopped and listened to them discussing he too. He was in a good mood. At this moment, he also heard someone say, "The heaven hunting talent list has been shaking. Has anyone sensed it? Is the outside world contacting us? We have to spread the news about he too. It's best if the higher-ups come down invincible. Otherwise, it'll be too dangerous for us to go all the way up. It's best if a few invincible people come and take care of he too in the lower 3 levels." You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2553, Chapter 2553, Chapter 548, List of Corpses 4. Chapter 2553, Chapter 548, List of Corpses 4. As expected, these guys had also sensed the heaven hunting list. However, it was probably not that easy for the higher-ups to come down. Otherwise, there would have been people coming down long ago. Suyu quietly listened to the discussions of these guys. Some people were discussing whether they should contact the people from the opposite mountain and break into the 5th level together. If it doesn't work, I'll just kill them by force. Suyu thought to himself. He would pretend to be an undead and kill these guys by force. If these guys thought that the undead had arrived, they probably wouldn't be in the mood to fight to the death with him. The greater possibility was that they would leave the 4th floor and head to the 5th floor. It wasn't bad to let them pass the news to the 5th and 6th floors. Everyone knew that the undead had arrived, so no one thought about Suyu anymore. That was also a very good result. When the heaven hunting pavilion really sent the news, these guys would also spread what they saw and heard back. It would confirm he too's identity. Of course, Suyu only needed to hide it from the inside. Once he was out, it did not matter whether he hid it or not. When he returned to the ancient city, he was not afraid that those people would know that it was his doing. After making up his mind, Suyu made up his mind. Kill them. He would kill them one by one until the 4th floor was in chaos. It would be best if they all ran away. There was no need to think too much. Since the news of he too had spread, no one doubted him. This was the best. He looked at some of the people in the crowd and had an impression that they were either experts or civilized masters. Very good, I need the blood essence of civilized masters. These people were the first target. Suyu no longer hesitated and a book flew into the air. His essence aperture reversed and the aura of death surrounded him. At this moment, on the mountain peak, the sun and moon seemed to have sensed something. Some looked at the sky while others frowned. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Let's go. Retreat to the 5th floor." There was no need to discuss any countermeasures. It seemed like trouble was coming. At this moment, an incomparably huge book appeared in the air. The words, "he too," were faintly discernible. It wasn't too obvious and ordinary people wouldn't be able to see it. However, the eyes of those experts were bursting with divine light, they were all in shock. Retreat, quickly. Some of the sun and moon grabbed some important figures and began to flee. He too was here. No, perhaps it was what some people had said before, the vanguard under he too had arrived. It belongs to the Dead Souls clan. Death is eternal. At this moment, Suyu walked out from the air, surrounded by the aura of death, and said coldly, "Only death is eternal." Boom! The book descended, and in an instant, dozens of experts were swallowed by the huge mouth that appeared on the book. At this moment, hundreds of people fled. They were extremely terrified. No one was in the mood to stay and fight. They were invincible. This wasn't something they could resist. Even if this undead wasn't invincible, his appearance meant that he too would soon arrive. Listen to His Majesty He too's divine decree and return to the undead kingdom. Only then will it be the path of eternity. Suyu muttered as he walked through the air. An aura of death permeated the air. Anyone who came into contact with him was shaken by Suyu's sledgehammer in secret, and they were instantly swallowed by the book. This scene, in the eyes of the other fleeing people, added to the horror. He was too powerful. Even a peak expert of the mountain and sea realm was entangled by Suyu's aura of death. Suyu secretly smashed his opponent with his sledgehammer, and in an instant, his zero dedonant was devoured by the book. At this moment, no matter if it was a god or a devil or a dragon, none of them could escape from all of this. If these people really worked together to deal with Suyu, Suyu might not be able to do anything to them. Unfortunately, with the deterrence of the invincible undead, these people only cared about escaping. How could they have time to think about joining forces to deal with the undead? On the other side, the two mountains were very far away. However, at this moment, someone suddenly exclaimed, "That's... Run! Hurry up and run! The undead are coming!" No one talked about leaving together or in groups anymore. Run first. Hundreds of people, whether they were humans or immortals, were both terrified and secretly glad that the other party seemed to have gone to the gods and demons first. At this moment, the entire fourth floor was filled with human figures as they fled towards the fifth floor's entrance. On the other side, Suyu was also sweating profusely from killing. So many. They were all running. It was so difficult to kill. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to him, he secretly ate a drop of 7th level Sun Moon blood essence. This time, his aura became even stronger and his strength became even stronger. Suyu connected all the way. At this moment, his book seemed to have become a life and death book. Whoever was covered by it would be finished. Everyone knew that they couldn't be covered by that book anymore. When someone saw the words "river map," they became even more terrified. With just a glance, it was as if they saw the attack of death and saw their past and present lives. Escape. With endless panic, everyone was escaping. At this moment, the fourth level had become a hell-like place. Moreover, some people were not strong enough to suppress the burning sensation in their internal organs. When they were running away, their internal organs were burned and they had killed themselves. This made Suyu's heart ache a little. They were burned to death and were not complete, it was less fun to collect corpses. Outside, the passage began to collapse in large areas. 30, 50. Suyu was killing, and he too was also killing. On the third floor, there were still many survivors. Suyu was quick to kill, and he too was not slow either. However, because the 3 floors did not gather together, he too did not kill as many as Suyu. This was the 4th day. And now, the passages were rapidly collapsing. The remaining passages were decreasing. With the addition of the special passages, the 3,600 passages went from 2,200 to 2,100. Not long after, it became 2,000.